Salute to everybody in the building. What's up, y'all? What's up, Miss D? Shout out to you. What's up? Yeah, man, y'all know I had to get it in, man. What's up? Shout out to the late night crew, man. What's up, y'all? I'm back in the building. As we have more details of what's basically going on. What's up, Miss Louisiana? How you doing? Yeah, man. It appears that Iran and Iraq have chosen to cease fire, guys. I don't know for how long. You know, they saying that basically right after Trump decided to get at Iran retaliated against us, and then they sent more missiles to Israel right after they said the ceasefire was on, guys. You know what I'm saying? What's up, everybody? Shout out to y'all. What's up, Miss Louisiana? What's up, Miss Pooh Bear? Yeah, we back. You know what I'm saying? We back. I'm most definitely up tonight, man. Y'all know I couldn't leave y'all hanging too long, man. Y'all know what it is. Shout out to my late night crew. I ain't forgot about y'all, man. You know what I'm saying? No matter how successful I get, I still most definitely got to come back and holler at the late night crew, man. You know what I'm saying? What's up, y'all? What's up, Belinda? Yeah, I know it's a lot of them out there trying to steal y'all away. You know what I'm talking about? But I'm still here. I ain't going nowhere. I'm here to stay, man. Shout out to everybody in the building. What's up? Thank you for that gift, Miss Pooper. I appreciate it. But I've been posing this question to y'all all day. And I basically asked it again today in the poll, guys. Is this really about some nukes? Or could this be personal for Trump, guys? They've been trying to take Trump out the game. Trump fought one of their attempts, you know, and then when he basically got popped in the ear, they said the person that did it had something to do and had ties with Iran, y'all. And it's just odd, you know, that this the same country that we beefing with right now. Iran just keeps on popping up. They vowed to take Trump out the game. Do y'all remember when Trump signed a executive order that if anything was to happen to him at the hands of Iran, that we basically go over there and obliterate them? You know what I'm saying? Y'all remember that? It's just you know, it's something. Now, all of this started over Soleimani, you know what I'm saying, the general from over there. You know, when we was doing our thing with Iraq, you know, Trump basically gave orders when he was president the last time to take that man out the game. And he hurt a lot of people over there, man. They was in their feelings. They was protesting in the streets, crying, doing interviews, chanting unalive to America, you know. And I really think, in my opinion, that this may be personal. That's why we chose to jump in the water in the first place. Because Trump already had a personal vendetta against Iran because they were looking to take him out anyway. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? They be talking about do your research. Well, a lot of people seem to have forgotten when all of this went on. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to bring it back to y'all attention, as well as the details that I have on this ceasefire, guys, that's going on right now, allegedly between Israel and Iran. Continue to get those likes up. Make sure you double tap that screen. You know, most definitely get those likes up. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. All right. So this is something that I found on my Instagram involving this ceasefire. Trump basically tweeted this out, you know, about how he feels about it. It says, congratulations to everyone. This is from Trump. Congratulations to everyone. It has been fully agreed between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now. The Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in progress final missions for 12 hours, at which point the battle will be considered ended. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon 24 hours, an official end to the 12-day battle will be saluted by the world. During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful, on the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will. I would like to congratulate both countries, which it will. I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina and courage and intelligence to end it. What should be called the 12-day battle. This is a battle that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. God bless Israel, God bless Iran, God bless the Middle East, God bless the United States of America, and God bless the world. That's what Trump said, you know what I'm saying? On his social media site, y'all. You know, basically, so it's looking like it's a ceasefire in progress, guys. Now, I ain't gonna waste all night reading to y'all. You know what I'm saying? Let's jump right off into this. I want to take y'all back, you know, to this situation. Hold on, let me see if I got some over here, because I think I did. Hold on. Let me look through my little thingies up here. All right, so I guess I didn't. But let's go back to when they announced to us about the assassination attempt against Trump, guys. Check this out.
Trump. The DOJ does say Farhad Shakeri told federal investigators that he was tasked by an Iranian government official with planning the Republicans' murder before the U.S. election. According to court documents, Shakeri explained that he was instructed in September to assemble a plan within 7 days to murder Trump, and that, quote, money's not an issue. If the
How many of y'all remember this? This is when they found the, I call them sleeper cells in D.C., basically looking to unalive Trump, guys. You know, they said that it was a 500 million or $500,000. I think it was $500 million bounty on Trump head, allegedly.
7-day timeline wasn't possible. Shakeri claimed that he was told to wait until after the election, as the Iranian official believed Trump would lose and would then be easier to kill. Shakeri, an Afghan national who immigrated to the U.S. and was later deported, is believed to be somewhere in Iran. Justice Department there does say that 2 other men have been arrested after Shakeri recruited them to kill a prominent Iranian-American journalist. A lot to discuss. Do want to bring in Joe Truzman, a senior research analyst and editor at the Foundation for Defensive Democracy's Long War Journal. Thank you so much, as always, Joe, for taking the time to join us and help break this down. Obviously, a lot to discuss here.
No, absolutely. I appreciate you having me here on.
Of course. Well, I do want to go back to basics here and break this all down, because a lot of folks don't necessarily know why Iran has targeted Donald Trump, and that's, of course, something that's happened over several years. So can you kind of break that?
Isn't that strange, guys? You know, that we're talking about Iran back then while Donald Trump was on the campaign trail, as well as right now with the situation going on between Israel and Iran, guys. Is it a coincidence? Could this be personal? That's my question to y'all, as I give y'all this back information, you know, on what basically took place.
That down for us.
Yeah, essentially what Iran is trying to attempt here is that they're responding or acting out against specifically Donald Trump, or President-elect Donald Trump, for the assassination or the targeted killing of Qasem Soleimani. This occurred when President-elect Donald Trump was in office in January 2020. President-elect Trump ordered a drone strike against Qasem Soleimani, who at the time was the chief of the IRGC's Quds Force.
Soleimani, y'all remember that name?
The Quds Force is one of the branches of Iran's military apparatus, so they're very important. Nevertheless, this strike that occurred in Baghdad, just right outside the airport back in January 2020, was a significant event, right? And not only did it kill Qasem Soleimani, but it also killed the chief of the Popular Mobilization Forces in Iraq. So this was a significant
Y'all get
event.
those
So what
likes
Iran
up,
has been doing all these years is
y'all make sure y'all get those likes up, man. Double tap that screen, click the 3 dots, you know, hit that thumbs up. Most definitely subscribe to the channel if you're new. We got 172 people in the building, only got 27 likes. Let's get the likes up.
trying to respond, or rather assassinate Trump over this this drone strike.
What stood out to you overall about these allegations? Because they are some fairly lengthy court documents, but what did kind of stick out in your mind as you were looking through all of it?
Right. So interestingly, it wasn't necessarily what was in the documents. Okay. What I would say concerns me more than anything is that Iran is trying to assassinate a former president and now the president-elect, and it tells me that Iran is willing to risk an all-out war with the United States, right? And that kind of shows the state of mind that they're in. And it also, something that's very important here to note is that attempted assassination that was thankfully thwarted is only one attempt in many, not only against the former president, but against obviously journalists, and including as well as not only just on American soil, but we've seen it in Israel, for example, spy rings that have been established by the IRGC attempting to assassinate officials. So this isn't anything new here. So at the end of the day, again, it's just telling to me and concerns me that Iran is willing to risk all-out war against the United States.
Now, you know what I'm saying? Ask yourself, was it really about nukes? Or could this be personal, guys? I'm just asking. I'm asking you to open your mind, open your ears, and listen to what's going on.
Do you see any end in sight to all of this, the attempts on Trump's life? Because, again, it's important to note that he was just reelected. He's going to spend the next 4 years in office. So is Iran going to continue to try this?
I haven't seen evidence or any rhetoric from Iranian officials that they will stop completely, or that more than anything, that they'll abandon this strategy. I think they may pause, right? And that's something that could definitely happen while Donald Trump is president. But I haven't seen any evidence to suggest that they'll just stop this altogether. Now, we have to understand here that Iran, right, has not been compelled to abandon the strategy, right, over the last years. They haven't. So this is why they keep trying. And my fear is that one day they'll be successful here, right? Because this isn't the first time that they did try.
He says they keep trying, guys. Let's go.
So again, I don't think they'll stop, but they may cease while President Trump is in office.
I guess that leads to the question, you touched on this already, but is that essentially, let's say that Iran does move forward with a plan and attempts to assassinate Trump, does that lead to an all-out war between the U.S. and Iran? I can't imagine that the U.S. doesn't respond to something like that.
Right. Just as I said before, I think it would lead to a war. Now, here's the thing about Iran. I have every confidence that they've strategized this and they've thought several steps ahead, especially if this attempt would have been successful. All right. And I think the way they are seeing it, or the way they view it, and what they've signaled is that an American response to an assassination like this would only be temporary. That effectively, that the Iranian regime would survive.
Continue to hit that like button, guys. Get the likes up. What's up,
against the United States here, okay? And again, that's another concerning aspect about this. So it would lead to war, I think. But would the Iranian regime survive? I think the way they view it, I think they would.
Following Trump's election, is the threat of a major attack by Iran on Israel still a possibility? We heard that mentioned a lot over the past couple weeks here. Iran has threatened both the U.S. and Israel and said they are going to retaliate for Israel's retaliation on Iran. But is that still a possibility? Because it kind of seems as though Iran maybe fears Trump.
What's up, Sincere?
Right, very good questions. I think there is this window right now, okay, until Donald Trump goes into office. So the possibility is still there. The rhetoric, for sure, from Iranian officials, from Iranian military officials as well. Rhetoric that they're going to respond is there. So I think the big question here, okay, is how they're going to respond. Are they going to respond the way they did before, with ballistic missiles from Iran?
Now, this has been an ongoing situation between Iran and Israel, guys. Iran, however you pronounce it, it has been an ongoing situation. Now, take in mind that this is from months ago. When Trump was running for office, that these people were talking about the same type of thing. And that's why that's why I've been saying this whole time, y'all. Is this personal, or was this really about nukes, or what? I'm telling y'all, as soon as it happened and they asked America to get involved and it was left up to Trump, I felt like we was going to get involved just based off of the things that had happened in the past. That's why you got to go to the past in order to understand the present. Let's continue.
Or are they going to use a third country, right? Or they're going to employ their militias in Yemen, in Iraq, for example, to carry out this attack? I don't. It's hard to say, but it's definitely a possibility. Do they fear a Trump administration, or what can happen now between now and when Trump comes into office? I haven't seen evidence to suggest that they would fear anything. They would fear that. Maybe some concern, okay, but everything that they've said and done so far is that they seem that they haven't been compelled to stop this strategy of directly attacking Israel.
And what you're looking at on the left-hand side of your screen is a live look over the Israel-Lebanon border, because I want to touch on the situation between Hezbollah and Israel as well.
This is crazy, guys. And this was like 7 months ago when this was going on. You know what I'm saying? That's why, man, listen, make sure you vote on the poll, man. Is this personal, or could they really have had nukes?
These attacks that do continue, we're talking dozens of rockets that are fired near daily from Hezbollah in Lebanon over at Israel. And it also seems like we're seeing more injuries and deaths that are reported among Israelis as a result of that rocket fire.
What's up,
do you see any sort of end in sight to all of that?
Yes, so we are seeing a lot of destruction, especially in northern Israel, from Hezbollah rocket fire. And we have to remind viewers that Israel's missile defense system is not 100%, okay? It does miss, and what Hezbollah and other terrorist organizations, what they do is when they fire at Israel, they don't just fire one or two rockets. They fire it in a barrage, right? Because it increases the likelihood of at least one rocket getting through and hitting civilian infrastructure, for example. So I think that's the case here. And unfortunately, this has been a year of war, right? So Israel has had to use countless amount of interceptors.
Hey, dear live streams, hey, man, I'll be seeing you in here all the time. Let's calm down. We ain't talking about Diddy right now. Right now, we talking about Iran, Israel, and Trump. We ain't on no Diddy right now.
To confront these rockets. So I think there is some concern here is that how many interceptors does the Israelis have left here, right? How many interceptors are left to confront these rocket attacks? So we don't know the answer to that. We don't. But nevertheless, I think right now what is needed more than anything is a ceasefire between the Hezbollah and Israel, but only after Israel achieves its objectives in southern Lebanon.
One last question for you here. It's one that a lot of folks are talking about right now. The Biden administration saying that Qatar has actually kicked out Hamas. They've said they needed to leave. So assuming that is true, What exactly does that mean overall for the situation there in the Middle East?
Yeah, they ain't really talking about much. I played the beginning so y'all could hear them talking about Trump, and basically, the forward the forward unaliving of Donald Trump on U.S. soil, guys. All right, so I've been telling y'all a lot about this Soleimani guy and how much Iran loved this guy. When Trump, basically took him out the game, man, those people over there was hurt. I'm telling y'all, man, they was protesting in the street. They were saying unalive to America. I mean, they were deeply impacted by what went on with Soleimani, that which led to the unaliving attempts on Donald Trump. And that's why I'm asking y'all the question, is this really about nukes or is this more personal? Let me let y'all see how much they really loved the Soleimani, the general, the leader that at that time over there that Trump took out the game, guys. Check this out.
By a US drone at Baghdad airport. The general was the commander of the Quds force.
This is Soleimani right here. Thank you, Beanie Bag.
They're responsible for
Beanie
Iranian
Baby,
foreign military operations and answer directly to the country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. General Soleimani, who for many was seen as a charismatic national hero at home, tens of thousands of Iranians are holding rallies in Tehran and other cities now,
this is when it was at its
what they
peak,
call
guys.
US crimes. Well, Washington said it killed the general because he was developing plans to attack Americans in Iraq and the wider region. Quentin Somerville reports.
Untouchable no more. The aftermath of the US strike at Baghdad airport and the Middle East's most brutally effective commander, Qasem Soleimani, is dead.
That's Soleimani right there, man. You know what I'm saying? This is the guy that Trump took out the game, y'all. And he was a big deal over there. He was a big deal in Iran, man. And when Trump did that, man, he hurt those people over there dearly. I'm talking about a lot. I'm talking about so much that they allegedly put a $500 million bounty on Trump's head. I'm just saying. But let me watch this. Watch how much they love this man.
He led Iran's Quds force, but his reach was far greater. Few men have shaped the countries around them like General Soleimani. The order for the assassination came directly from US President Donald Trump, who posted only a cryptic tweet, the US flag. His presence was felt or his name mentioned in almost every battlefield across the Middle East. He served Iran's interests with vicious efficiency. Here in Lebanon and in Iraq, Syria and elsewhere, he leaves behind a brutal legacy. Qasem Soleimani reshaped the world around him. Iran says there will be severe consequences for his killing.
Severe.
Republican Guard spokesman General Ramazan.
Iran said there will be severe consequences behind the unaliving of Soleimani, man. They really loved him, man. I'm telling y'all. Double tap that screen. Get them lights up. Was this a personal thing or was it really about nukes, guys? This is crazy. Check it out. Look at this man over here. He is brought to tears behind Soleimani.
Sharif broke down at the news and said that American joy at Qasem Soleimani's death would be short-lived and promised to take revenge for what he described as the death of a proud martyr. In Iraq, for those protesting Iranian influence, there were celebrations at news of his death. He was the mastermind behind Iranian power there, even it is rumoured ensuring the Prime Minister Abdul Mahdi stayed in power.
We have not wanted Iran's influence in Iraq from the beginning, and we also condemn America's interference in Iraq's domestic affairs. We don't want Iraq to be pushed into the American-Iranian conflict.
He was an electrifying presence on the battlefield. Once described as a shadowy figure, he soon became the region's most photographed general as militiamen clamoured for selfies with the Iranian commander. The United States appeared caught on the hop when earlier this week, pro-Iranian protesters launched a short-lived attack on its embassy. But the gravity of this assassination seems to have been already understood. More American boots on the ground.
Let's
the
talk
Pentagon said
about
the
it.
killing was a defensive act to prevent the deaths of U.S.
And
personnel.
that's why they say you got to know where you been in order to know where you're going. A lot of people forgot all about this. I never forgot about it. You know, even when they tried to basically take Trump out the game, and our intelligence was able to pick up on it and stop it before it happened. You know, yeah, they don't like Trump in Iran, man. I'm telling y'all. I don't think that it has a lot to do with America itself. I think that it got mostly to do with Donald Trump and the unaliving of Soleimani. I'm just saying.
Now, hundreds of U.S. troops are flooding the region, while all other Americans have been told to leave Iraq. The country's disengagement from here may now be on hold. In life, Qasem Soleimani reshaped the countries around Iran. His killing runs the risk of doing the same.
Quentin Somerville there. Well, our chief international correspondent, Lise Doucette, is in Kabul. Lise, how big is this moment?
It's a massive moment in a region which was already extremely tense and where for more than a year now, people have warned and worried about the possibility of a direct confrontation between Iran and the United States after the United States pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal. But we had heard from leaders on all sides, including leaders in this region, they didn't want a war, that the region couldn't afford another war. But yet this step that was apparently ordered by President Trump has set the region on an even more dangerous path. Iran will retaliate. Given that the strains inside Iran itself, both economically and politically, it will be a carefully calibrated retaliation, but a retaliation no less.
They're going to retaliate
right now, given the rising tensions in the region, not just in Iran, where Iranian leaders are vowing revenge, but also heads of the militias, proxy militias created across this region, deeply loyal to Qasem Soleimani, who, for them, he was a cult hero. They too are vowing revenge. It's a deeply dangerous and unpredictable time across this region, including in Afghanistan, where I am now, where U.S. forces are based, which could also be one of the proxy battlefields where Iran could choose to act.
General Soleimani, hugely powerful, hugely influential, not just in Iran, not just in Iraq, but beyond.
So to my people talking about a quick rundown. All right, so I was asking the question to the people early, actually over the last couple of days. Do y'all feel like this is personal or more about nukes? You know, seeing that the history that Trump has with Iran. You know, I've been telling y'all about Soleimani. Some of y'all may not even knew who he was, but I'm basically presenting to y'all the reason why I feel that this may be more personal than anything about some nukes. Don't forget, Iran was speculated to be involved with the potential trying to unalive Trump, you know, on his campaign run. And they vowed to retaliate. Trump also signed the executive order that if he was unalived by Iran, you know, basically to obliterate the country, guys. I'm just putting the information out. Let me know how you feel in the comments. Most definitely vote on that poll, and most definitely click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up, man. You know, I'm giving y'all a whole little presentation from past to present.
He was a deeply polarizing figure across the region. He had this magnetic personality, very, very elusive, as Quentin Somerville was saying, that he had this air of mystery, this myth around his powerful presence across this region, as the architect of the strategy which kept President Assad in power, kept Iranian militias in Iraq continually in commanding positions, strengthened Hezbollah in Lebanon, very, very powerful in all of the actions that he commanded. And more than that, he was also a powerful political personality inside Iran, where for his supporters there, he had celebrity status, with a power only second to Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, and predictions last year that he could even be a future political leader. But he had his enemies as well, and we're hearing from them today too.
Lise, we are beginning to get more top-level reaction from the United States. That tweet just now from Donald Trump saying Iran never won a war but never lost a negotiation. Mike Pompeo has been tweeting about the number of calls he's making with foreign leaders. The word he keeps using now is de-escalation.
we've heard that word too from Britain, from Germany, from Brussels. Nobody wants a war. Everyone realizes what's at stake here.
What's
and
up,
even
Miss
more
Shree?
so after this, what is really being seen as a dramatic, sudden, and for many of America's allies, a surprising escalation. Many are asking now, was there any consultation with allies who also have their forces on the ground? We understand that the U.S. Congress was not consulted. I think in the days to come, we will hear more about the decision-making process which led this commander-in-chief, President Donald Trump, to take a decision that presidents before him, including President Bush and President Obama, had stopped short of. They too had Qasem Soleimani in their sights, but stepped back,
Let's talk
knowing
about it,
just
Rena.
how inflammatory targeted killing would be. And now we're finding about that today, and certainly in the days and weeks, if not months to come.
Interestingly, on that point, Lise, one of the things that Mike Pompeo has been saying in his first interviews is the risk of doing nothing regarding Iran was enormous. So, as you say, successive administrations in Washington have thought about this move. They've taken it now.
But the Pentagon, in their statement, including the Defense Secretary Mark Esper, has given the rationale for this attack now as saying it was a move to prevent further Iranian attacks. They have blamed Iran both for the recent attacks by pro-Iranian militias on the U.S. Embassy in Iraq, but also saying that he was planning coordinating future attacks on American personnel in Iraq. So now we're hearing from the United States, from Democrats, from others, from observers of this crisis are saying, well, show us the evidence. America's record on intelligence is a very patchy one. And people are saying, well, if you have evidence that Iran was planning these attacks, and personally Qasem Soleimani himself, then show us the evidence. And we're getting slightly different messaging.
They were saying Trump back then didn't have no evidence, and they was upset about what he did to Soleimani. Man, I'm telling y'all, this is crazy. This is, man, and then it's crazier that we're talking about Iran, Trump, and Israel to this day, man. You know, this was 7 months ago when all this popped off. This was a couple years ago when they took out Soleimani. The assassination attempts was seven months ago. You know what I'm saying? So is this personal, or is this really about nukes? Let me know.
From when Secretary Pompeo was asked at a press conference, he talked about threats in the region, which seemed to be a slightly different emphasis than what we heard from the Defense Secretary earlier. So I think, given the consequences of this, given the way it has ratcheted up tensions in the region, given the possibility that this could escalate, although Iran too will want to avoid a tit for tat that endangers its own interests in the region, people will say, well, why was this done and in whose name?
Let's hear more about international reaction now to the killing of General Soleimani. Syria has blamed the United States for instability in Iraq. It's condemned what it called the treacherous, criminal American aggression that led to the killing of the general.
Yeah, so this thing we got going on with the Middle East, man, it has been going on for years and years and years. But I think it's more personal with Trump, you know, with them trying to basically take his life. Is basically the reason why we got involved in this whole thing with Israel and Iran anyway. You know, I'm just saying.
And said this attack constitutes a serious escalation. China, a major buyer of Iranian oil and a UN Security Council member, has asked for restraint from both sides, especially from the United States. The UK Foreign Secretary, Dominic Raab, has said, we've always recognised the aggressive threat posed by the Iranian Quds force led by Qasem Soleimani. Following his death, we urge all parties to de-escalate. Further conflict is in none of our interests. Well, we've also been hearing from Israel. A short while ago, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu voiced his support.
Hearing from who? Israel. Way back then. Everybody's been chiming in. Everybody was chiming in. It's crazy. The same ones, the same names that we hear to this day was the same names that were being thrown around back then.
Support for the U.S. drone strike.
Just as Israel has the right of self-defense, the United States has exactly the same right. Qasem Soleimani is responsible for the death of American citizens and many other innocent people. He was
So even back then, they backed Trump in his actions on taking out Soleimani. Israel did. and they still backing Trump to this day. So they came and asked a favor for a favor. Like, basically, man, you know, we had your back this whole time. Now we got a situation going on in Iran. Would you mind having our back? And Trump said yes.
Planning more such attacks. President Trump deserves all the credit for acting swiftly, forcefully, decisively. Israel stands with the United States in its just struggle for peace, security, and self-defense. Thank you.
Benjamin Netanyahu there. We've seen a big picture, heard about the big picture there from our chief international correspondent, Lise Doucette. I want to take you now to Tehran. We're joined by Professor Sayed Mohammad Marandi, who's in Tehran. He was a member of the Iranian delegation during the...
Not Tehran. See what I'm saying? Same individuals, different day.
US-Iran nuclear talks. Can I ask you first about the reaction, the mood in Iran today?
Well, since this was an act
Trump's
of war,
first term,
and the United States murdered a senior Iranian official and military commander, punished the United States, and the same is true in Iraq. Americans also murdered a senior Iraqi commander who, at the airport, received General Soleimani at the Baghdad International Airport, and he too was murdered and killed alongside his entourage. And therefore, the outrage among most Iraqis is quite clear and open. And I think that the Americans are miscalculating by behaving like a rogue regime that disregards Iraqi sovereignty, that murders at will, that ignores the orders of the Iraqi prime minister, that has an embassy the size of a country in Baghdad, that behaves like an imperial power. This is not going to serve American interests, and I think the Americans will soon recognize that its position in Iraq is no longer sustainable.
Professor Marandi, we're just showing our viewers some pictures, the latest pictures from the streets of Tehran. You say the Americans have miscalculated. Mike Pompeo has said in the last hour or so the risk of doing nothing was enormous.
So the USA has been being a thorn in Iran's side, guys. You know, ever since Trump's first term. And then now it's his second term, you know, basically his second coming. And we at it again.
They had to act because of the threat posed by General Soleimani and the forces he commands.
Those people was hurt.
Well, Pompeo is the same person who said at the CIA we had courses where we taught how to lie, cheat, and steal. This is the same person, if I'm not mistaken. And the United States, this is the same regime in Washington that lied its way into a war in Iraq. So there's nothing honest about anything that comes from Washington. But this is our turf, and this is an attack on our sovereignty and our dignity and the dignity of the people of Iraq. And the Americans are going to have to face the consequences. Imagine a foreign country was to kill the most senior officials or military officials in the British armed forces, what would the British response be? That's exactly the sort of response that people are discussing right now.
So about that response,
Western countries cannot expect double standards. They destroyed Iraq.
Let me ask you then about that response and how you think
they've been not liking us.
That retaliation could come.
Well, I think obviously Iraqis will demand the full withdrawal of the United States from their country, and most probably there will be armed conflict if the United States does not do so. The Americans have been murdering Iraqi war heroes that have been fighting ISIS for a long time now. Every time they just...
Well, yeah, not liking Trump, but you know, they tie us all into it. You know, they just say the whole United States, but they've been not liking Trump for a long time.
2 days ago, they murdered 30 soldiers on the Iraq-Syria border who were on the front line of fighting ISIS. The Americans clearly don't want the Syrian-Iraqi border open.
Oh, you just got here. Let me show you. It most definitely says there's a ceasefire, my guy. Donald Trump declares end the 12-day battle as Israel and Iran apparently agree to a ceasefire. Take it up with the news. Don't take it up with me. I ain't had nothing to do with it. I'm just passing on the information.
So they want to strangle the Syrian economy, and they want to isolate Syria from Iraq. So they
more about
empower
what
ISIS by
Iraqis
murdering
want. You're talking
Iraqi
about
soldiers.
the reaction of people in Iraq, but we have also seen celebrations in Tahrir Square in Baghdad from those who've been demonstrating for weeks and for longer against Iranian influence on the government of Iraq. So some are celebrating this airstrike.
Don't mislead yourself. I think that by now people in Western countries should have recognized that the Baathists, those who fought for Saddam Hussein, they obviously would be celebrating. And those who supported ISIS, they too would be celebrating. And those who work for American NGOs, which there are over 1,000 in Iraq, they too would be celebrating. But you will see in the coming hours and days the huge to the streets for the funeral, as they did for the funeral a couple of days ago for the 30 soldiers that the Americans murdered on the Iraqi-Syrian border. Again, I think the problem in Western countries is that the propaganda against Iran is extensive, but they come to believe their own propaganda. For 40 years now, it's been that Iran is hatred, Iran is unpopular, the so-called regime, as the Western media likes to call it, is despised at home, but it is powerful, it is popular, it is prepared to defend itself. And in Iraq, if the United States was so popular, then why are they constantly bombing and killing and murdering people?
See how they think about us over there,
The United States has lost across the board.
We're showing our viewers right now pictures from General Soleimani's hometown. There are hundreds, possibly thousands of people there in the streets demonstrating, beginning the morning.
They love General Soleimani. And when Trump did that, man, they was upset.
Well, the general, I want to ask you, Professor Morandi, if this situation escalates, and you've talked about the sovereignty and dignity of Iran and the need for some retaliation, if the situation escalates, surely it will also damage the people of Iran, where your economy is staggering already.
What do you mean? Who don't know what they like? They've been saying they don't like us. They be over there chanting unalive to America. How you gonna tell me I don't know what they like? They saying what they don't like. None of your business. What are we doing?
Well, the Americans are far more vulnerable than Iran is. The United Arab Emirates, which is aiding the United States in its economic war against Iran, and which is providing the United States with military installations to behave aggressively towards Iran, is extremely vulnerable. So is Saudi Arabia. These two countries are facing enormous problems because of the massacres that they've been carrying out in Yemen for the past few years. They've drained their resources. So it's not as if the United States and its close allies, like the Saudi regime, they are doing very well. They are much more vulnerable than Iran because they have many more assets alongside the Persian Gulf that can be destroyed. But remember, the United States created Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. The United States aided Saddam Hussein, gave him chemical weapons. Then, after they...
You don't hear this man blaming everything going on the United States? Yeah, man, the United States did this. The United States did that. They ain't just talking about Trump. They saying the whole United States. What are we talking about?
Powered Saddam Hussein and helped him use those chemical weapons, even against his own people. Then they had a war against Saddam. Then they imposed sanctions where they killed a million Iraqis. Then they invaded and destroyed Iraq through lies, claiming that they had nuclear weapons and that they were linked to Al-Qaeda. Lie after lie after lie. In Syria, the United States with the Saudis, they destroyed the country through supporting extremists. They've destroyed this region. They've destroyed Syria. You can blame the Syrian government, but the reality is that Western governments they were the ones who've created this mess in Libya, Yemen. Iranians know that if they don't stand firm, that they will be next. So
We're
there's
going to
no
leave it
option
there with your words that if Iran knows it has to stand firm or they will be next. Professor Syed.
It's crazy, y'all. You know what I'm saying? I'm just giving y'all a little backlog, you know, to correspond with the question that I put down there, man. Do y'all think this is personal with Trump, or do y'all think that Iran really had nukes? Keep in mind, they've been trying to take Trump out the game. And keep in mind how much they really love General Soleimani, you know, in Iran, that they vowed retaliation. You talking about they look happy to you? Tell me if they look happy in this one.
These young American servicemen and women are the first wave of military troops arriving in the Middle East amid the growing crisis with Iran. 3,500 strong, joining the already tens of thousands of U.S. troops in the region. Tensions flaring after a U.S. drone strike last week killed Iran's top military official, General Qasem Soleimani. In the heart of Iran, a public outpouring of grief, overwhelming the streets of its capital.
Trump made a big mistake. He killed our hero.
Cries drowned out by angry chants. Soleimani, a beloved figure in Iran, seen as standing up to the West. Now, his death and the way it was carried out, a game changer for Iran and the United States.
Mr. Trump, you don't have any right to kill him.
My colleague, Martha Raddatz, one of the few Western journalists allowed in the country.
This procession still think they look happy about Soleimani being taken out the game. Man, they were so mad about Trump taking out Soleimani, they allegedly put a $500 million bounty on his head.
So packed you can barely move, but the emotion is everywhere. People have a very strong message for America.
They're chanting death to America.
You hear what they chant?
Inside the funeral service, tears from Iran's supreme leader.
There go the supreme leader. That's the dude that's been on the news talking. Man, these people was hurt behind what Trump did. I'm telling y'all, man, y'all better pay attention. Yeah, I think it was most definitely personal, in my opinion. I'm just saying, they got a personal vendetta with Trump, and Trump got a vendetta with them.
Ayatollah Khamenei, weeping and praying over Soleimani's grave.
There are few figures who were held in higher esteem by the Iranian people than Mr. Soleimani. He was the man who brought back pride.
On the ground, his image everywhere. More than 1 million united in their cry for revenge.
Revenge must happen, and it is certain.
What must happen? Yeah, what?
Cry for revenge.
Revenge must happen, and it is certain.
What kind of revenge do you want?
Anything.
24-year-old Hussein is a college student.
That man crying behind Soleimani.
Is this democracy? Are we human or not? What should we do? You tell us.
What is your message to America?
I'm saying we love Americans, but look at your president.
Soleimani, a critic of the United States,
We love America, but we hate your president. What are we talking about, guys? Somebody said they look happy. Is that the face of a happy man right there? He is most definitely not happy. He is distraught behind what happened to Soleimani, man. Y'all better wake up and pay attention.
What is your message to America?
I'm saying we love Americans.
He said, I'm saying we love Americans, but we hate your president. Who is the president right now? Let me know in the chat, man. I'm just saying, when he came around again, now we involved in their affairs over there, Iran and Israel. You know, I'm just saying, Israel backed Trump back then, and now Trump is backing them today.
Soleimani, a critic of the United States, taunted President Trump in a speech in 2018. Let me tell you, Mr. Trump, the gambler, know that we are near you in places that don't come to your mind. The U.S. moved to kill the revered general who commanded the elite Revolutionary Guard, proving consequential across the region. Members of the Iranian parliament chanting death to America. And this weekend, an ominous sign, a red flag symbolizing war, raised above an Iranian mosque.
We took action last night to stop a war
This is Trump in his first term after what he did. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about it. Do you think it's personal, or do you think they really had nukes over there, or nuclear capabilities? I'm just saying they tried to unalive Trump. Trump most definitely signed the executive order that if anything happens to him at the hands of Iran, you know, basically before any of this, that we should go obliterate Iran. I'm just saying.
We took action last night to stop a war. We did not take action to start a war.
In the face of criticism, President Trump insisted the attack was a necessary measure.
Soleimani was plotting imminent and sinister attacks on American diplomats and military personnel, but we caught him in the act and terminated him.
But there are questions about the administration's initial justification for the attack, just how imminent those threats were. This evening, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff telling reporters the intelligence was compelling, adding,
"Did it exactly say who, what, when, where? No. But he was planning, coordinating, and synchronizing significant combat operations against U.S. military forces in the region."
Now, Iran said we had no proof of this. You know what I'm saying? That basically all this stuff that they are saying back then was made up. They said America came and attacked us with no proof.
And it was imminent.
But the Iranians deny those claims.
Same thing they say right now about these nuclear sites, you know, and them potentially trying to make a nuclear bomb. They say they was never doing it. We had no proof. Our investigators said that they didn't even know if they were planning to make a bomb. But Trump made a split-second decision to go over there and intervene in what Israel and Iran had going. Let's talk about it.
Instead, pointing to the general's record of fighting ISIS.
آقای ترامپ اگر سندی داشت رو میکرد. آقای ترامپ کاری کرد که خودش و آمریکایی‌ها رو در بین ما.
Iranian officials threatening retaliation that would target U.S. military in the region.
Whether they punch back is a big calculus because they know that if they do, they're going to be hit hard with conventional attacks on Iranian soil. And those attacks could bring down a very fragile economy.
Over the weekend, President Trump warned that if there is retaliation, he has 52 Iranian targets in his sights. Some, he says, at a very high level and important to Iran and the Iranian culture, a potential war crime under international law. But Secretary of State Mike Pompeo telling ABC that no illegal action would be taken.
Every target that we strike will be a lawful target, and it will be...
It's just a little fat for your brain, guys. It's just a little fat for your brain. Never forget what happened in the past, because sometimes it determines the present. That's what I was taught. Continue to double tap that screen. Get those likes up. Click the 3 dots. Hit that thumbs up, man. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, man. You know what I'm saying? This is some very good information that you can most definitely use.
A target designed at the singular mission of protecting and defending America.
Trump contradicted that notion hours later, telling reporters off camera that Iranians are allowed to kill our people, they're allowed to torture and maim our people, and we're not allowed to touch their cultural sites. It doesn't work that way. Tensions in Iran impacting relations with neighboring Iraq. The Iraqi parliament, angry at the killing of Soleimani on their soil, voting to kick U.S. troops out of the country. Though it's non-binding, it prompted Trump to threaten Iraq with sanctions and demand repayment for the billions of U.S. dollars spent in the country. Amidst this crisis, the U.S. and NATO pausing operations against ISIS. It's worth noting, the last time there was a power vacuum in Iraq, ISIS filled the void. This latest round of escalations began in 2018 after President Trump dismantled the Iran nuclear deal, brokered by President Obama.
This was a horrible one-sided deal.
Today, the Iranian government announcing they're suspending commitments to that deal, now abandoning limits on enriching uranium and stockpiling nuclear fuel. Hostilities continue to escalate after a series of Iranian provocations over this past summer, including the downing of an American drone. Then, in late December, an American contractor was killed in a rocket attack in Iraq. The U.S. blamed an Iranian-backed militia and responded with airstrikes that killed at least 24 people, possibly including civilians. On New Year's Eve, a huge crowd of protesters stormed the U.S. Embassy compound in Baghdad, breaching the highly fortified perimeter.
Y'all asking me what I think they were doing with all that uranium? Well, Israel said it was peaceful. It was a peaceful site, not nothing to do with no bomb. You know, I'm just presenting this information to y'all. You know, you take it however you want. You can think that it's garbage. You can think that Trump was doing it because they had nukes. You can think they wasn't. You free to think whatever you want. I just think that it was a little more personal than some nukes.
A siege sent diplomats into a safe room and forced Marines to deploy tear gas. President Trump blamed Iran for orchestrating those protests, ominously tweeting 2 days before General Soleimani was killed, "Iran is going to pay a very big price. This is not a warning, it is a threat." America's contentious history with Iran goes back decades, back to 1953, when the U.S. installed the Shah in order to protect oil interests.
We've been at it with these people since 1953. You know what I'm saying? Fun fact for y'all. Just, man, listen, open up your ears, receive the information, take it however you want. You know what I'm saying? But most definitely double tap that screen or click those three dots, hit that thumbs up. You know, and most definitely subscribe to the channel if you new.
After 25 years, in 1979, mass demonstrations filled the streets and forced the Shah into exile. Then, just months later,
the U.S. Embassy in Tehran has been invaded and occupied by Iranian students,
holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days before they were released in 1981.
A lot of stuff that was before some of our times that we didn't even know about, you know? It's crazy, y'all. It's crazy that we've been at it with these people for so long.
The relationship between the U.S. and Iran over the next few decades would remain fractured. Fast forward to 2013. President Barack Obama's administration started taking small but controversial steps to bridge decades of hostilities, including a one-on-one conversation with Iran's then newly elected President Rouhani. In 2015, the U.S., along with a group of world powers, brokered the deal with Iran to end its nuclear program. That momentary thawing of tensions.
Now they talking about the nukes.
Now history. What happens next? Unknown. And we'll have much more coverage.
All right, you know what I'm saying? So I took y'all through a walk, showed y'all who Soleimani is. You know, showed y'all how long we actually been at it, you know, with the people in Iran. I even told y'all on the attempts against President Trump. Now, don't forget, I keep on telling y'all about this because they actually found some quote-unquote sleeper cells, people who were allegedly paid by Iran to take out President Trump. Check this out.
Federal charges against 3 people in a thwarted Iranian plot to kill former President Donald Trump and President-elect before the presidential election. This is a newly discovered plot, and 2 of the people charged are U.S. citizens.
We have CNN's Evan Perez following the story. Also with us, a CNN military analyst, retired.
What does that say on y'all screen? It says DOJ charges 3 people in thought, or whatever that word is, Iranian plot to unalive Donald Trump. Man, how many times y'all think Trump was gonna keep on letting these people play on his top and basically put money on his head in order to have people take him out the game? I'm just saying, man, I feel like it's personal between Iran and Donald Trump.
Colonel Cedric Layton. And first to you, Evan, what more are you hearing from the DOJ?
Well, we know that 2 of these people are already in custody. These are people who were working with what prosecutors say is an IRGC operative, essentially, somebody who recruited these folks when he was serving time in U.S. prison. And the leader of this alleged plot, according to prosecutors, his name is...
Let's get, hold on real quick. Let's get, where you at? Where you at? Yeah, let's get Jay Daniels up out my chat. You know what I'm saying? Talking about, oh, if you can't pronounce that word, your points are invalid. Man, I don't care about pronouncing that word. That's a word I don't even have to worry about saying, speaking no other time than right now. You, Mr. Good pronunciation of words, good for you. You want a cookie? Yeah, we got a couple of them for you, but you won't get it on the sidewalk. We'll holler at you.
Farhad Shakeri, he is 51 years old. He is back in Iran, is obviously not under arrest. And according to prosecutors, he was tasked with recruiting people who would be able to carry out assassinations in the United States, people who were on their list of enemies. One of them, of course, is somebody who was a dissident, someone who was a critic of the Iranian regime. We don't know the name of that person. That person's not identified in here. But according to prosecutors, these two men followed this person and were essentially trying to figure out ways, their comings and goings to make sure.
It says Iranian officials asked suspect to surveil and unalive Trump.
They knew where exactly they could carry out this assassination. Now, the one that obviously sticks out to all of us is a plot that Shakeri was tasked with on October 7th, according to prosecutors, to try to carry out an assassination of Donald Trump. Obviously, this is before the election. It's not the first attempt by the Iranians, according to the FBI, to do an assassination against Donald Trump. Also on the list were two Jewish U.S. citizens, according to prosecutors in New York. Again, he was trying to pay $500,000 to carry out these assassinations.
All right, so it was $500K, guys. Not $500 million, but $500,000 to unalive President Trump is what they're alleging that Iran paid to get the job done.
And also Israeli tourists in Sri Lanka were on the IRGC list. Again, all of this, according to prosecutors, part of a broader effort by the Iranians to target dissidents, people, enemies that the Iranians have on their list. Of course, you remember back in the summer, there was a Pakistani man who was arrested. He was sent here specifically, according to the FBI, to try to find people to carry out an assassination against Donald Trump, against other people, including people inside the current administration, and to do surveillance, essentially, and information collecting for the IRGC.
Colonel Layton, what stands out to you about this news, and how do you think the effort by Iran to sort of recruit or outsource this effort would have worked? Would that have been an efficient plan?
Maybe not the most efficient plan, but it's very typical of the Iranians, Boris. And one of the things that they do is when they go after certain targets, like a prominent politician or somebody who is on their target list, like Israeli tourists, they're going to find others to do it. It's basically the same method that they use with Hezbollah and with Hamas, use proxy forces. So this is a microcosm of that. What they're trying to do on the Iranian side is they're trying to go in and in some ways have plausible deniability, at least initially when it comes to assassination attempts like this. But it's also, as Evan was mentioning, these are intelligence collection efforts with a purpose, with a goal in mind. They're basically preparing the battle space, so to speak, for these actions. They want to know movements, they want to know who's going where, what their targets are doing. And when they do that kind of thing, there's a lot of intelligence that they have to collect in order to be successful. And these particular suspects are ones that would have been recruited by the Iranians. They probably have an ideological bent that favors the Iranians, and they're using that in order to actually go after these targets. So if they were to be successful with that, of course, it would have a major implication for U.S. policy in the Middle East, would have major implications for our military force posture and many other things.
This can be traced back to the targeted killing.
Consider this as a history lesson of what's going on right now. From back then to right now. Same players involved, same countries involved, just different time. That's it, that's all.
Of Qasem Soleimani, the Quds Force commander back in 2020.
What's up, Bob?
2020.
Just before Trump left office.
Just before he left office, just a few weeks before he left office. And Iran, I don't think we can overstate, I'm sure for a lot of Americans, Soleimani was not a household name, but for Iranians, he was. And so this is something that Iranians, the Iranian government, they feel every day. They feel constantly this thing that America did. And yet, are you surprised that it has resulted in this reaction?
Not at all.
Really?
Because the reason I'm not surprised that the Iranians have a long memory, and now that Trump is once again the president-elect, he is even more of a valuable target to the Iranians. And in essence, what they're trying to do is they're trying to seek revenge. Killing Soleimani would have been like killing Colin Powell, something like that, on that level of magnitude. And the reason
When he was at his apex of power in government.
Exactly, when he was at his apex of power in government. And if you do something like that, Trump, ordered that killing, and the Iranians see that as being, something that he is responsible for, and as a result of that, not only was Trump on the target list, but people like former National Security Advisor Bolton was also on that list, and has protection to this day because.
So Iran had a whole list of American officials that they wanted to take out the game, and Trump being their top priority.
That. So those are the kinds of things that the Iranians, are continuing to look at. They're seeing this as being, a continuation of their policy. They are using asymmetric warfare on us in many different ways. This is one aspect of it. There are other aspects, including cyber activities, and of course the proxy activities that Hamas and Hezbollah have been conducting for years in those areas.
Right, and keep in mind, obviously, a lot of people focus on Russia and China as the biggest adversaries of the United States, but the Iranians are quickly trying to catch up, and they are doing things, including, as you just pointed out, during the recent election, they were targeting the Trump campaign. They hacked into the campaign. They tried to get documents out, disseminate them to try to embarrass the campaign. Not only are they trying to kill people associated with the former Trump administration, but also people associated with the current administration, with the Biden administration, and a lot of it is this view of retribution for what they view, what the United States has been doing, and what the Israelis have been doing in Iran and in the region. So that's part of what the story here is. And they've said publicly, by the way, that they are planning still to seek revenge for the killing of Soleimani. They say they haven't gotten it, and they will keep trying. And so that's the issue here for the FBI, is that these things they know will keep happening.
They haven't got it, and they will keep trying. So Trump's second term, they got at him.
And putting this out there now, at this time, while the Secret Service is undergoing somewhat of a renovation or a reimagining to some degree, is notable. It sends a message.
It does. Look, for the Secret Service, for the FBI, the fact that he is now president-elect changes the way they protect Donald Trump. It's already changed. He's going to have military assets now to help protect him. So there is a lot more protection for Donald Trump. It was already changing after the second attempt on his life, and so obviously when he's president, you have even more protections, and that is going to change forever how they protect Donald Trump, because they know, as you pointed out, the Iranians have a long memory. They're not going to let this go. And as the former president, he has said that he wants to go after the Iranians in their pressure campaign. That's going to be part of his foreign policy coming when he takes office.
All right, Evan, Colonel, thank you so much for both your insights in this.
Crazy, huh? Crazy. Y'all still think it's not personal. I still think it's personal. Make sure you vote on the poll, man. Here go a little bit of Trump speaking on this whole situation as well. Let's go.
Welcome back to Special Report in Abu Dhabi, the UAE, with President Donald J. Trump. Putin doesn't go to Turkey. Yeah. You thought about going, if he was going.
Well, I had a problem. I consider the Middle East very important. And I had a problem because Thursday I was going to be UAE, okay? And which is where I am now. We're going to be leaving in a few hours and have another couple of stops. It's a pretty grueling schedule. A lot of people said, how the hell do you do it?
By the way, how the hell do you do it?
I don't know. I think it's genetics. It's good genetics. I had a father who was very strong, and I had a mother who was very strong. They're competent enough to know what that meant. And he did it for a reason, and he was hit so hard. Because people like me. They like what's happening with our country. Our country has become respected again, and all this. And he's calling for the assassination of the president.
Obviously, he apologized and said he wasn't calling for violence, but
look,
hold up.
He closed it up.
I gotta find exactly where it was at.
And it drove oil through the roof. Putin made a fortune during that period of time.
Yeah.
People like him need to be held to account.
And he knew exactly what that meant. I saw that this morning.
I do.
Do you?
So I saw that this morning. You know, there's a big time gap. And he knew exactly what that meant. A child knows what that meant. If you're the FBI director and you don't know what that meant assassination. And it says it loud and clear. Now, he wasn't very competent, but he was competent enough to know what that meant. And he did it for a reason, and he was hit so hard. Because people like me. They like what's happening with our country. Our country's become respected again, and all this. And he's calling for the assassination of the president.
Obviously, he apologized and said he wasn't calling for violence. But
look, he's a very
what do you want to see happen?
What
do you want to see happen?
I don't want to take a position on it because that's going to be up to Pam and all of the great people. I have Cash, I have Pam, I have great people. And I'm going to let them, because if I tell you something, they'll say, oh, I'm not going to get involved. But I will say this, I think it's a terrible thing. And when you add his history to that, if he had a clean history, he doesn't. He's a dirty cop. He's a dirty cop. And if he had a clean history, I could understand if there was a leniency. But I'm going to let them make that decision. But
you're hit by that bullet in Butler. You've had 2 assassination attempts. One, obviously, where you got hit by that bullet in Butler. There's a lot of frustration that we still don't know about that shooter in Butler. And we don't know about his communications. We get stonewalled all the time asking questions about it. Is there frustration on your part? Will we get transparency? Will we know the bottom line story?
It's very interesting because we have great people. I think Pam is incredible. I think Cash is incredible. And they're doing a great job. They're being recognized as doing a great job. I was given an explanation early on, you know, sort of a little bit pre them. And I thought it was strange. You know, the one guy had 18 cell phones, okay? I have a lot of cell phones, but I have like 2. You know, I call that a lot. And I think I probably make more calls than him. It's like, that's all I do. And I had to, why does somebody have 18? Another one, the first one, the one from Butler, he had 3 apps, very unusual apps, and 2 of them were foreign apps.
Foreign apps.
And
you know
then he ends up with a white shoe lawyer, meaning a super lawyer from Pittsburgh, you know, the big city. And they live outside of Butler in a little place. Where did they get this lawyer that would represent IBM and would represent ExxonMobil?
But you're the president.
I know. I'm relying on my people to tell me what it is. You know, we have deep-seated craziness in this country. And I'm relying on my people. And so far they're good. But so far and in this case it's Secret Service, they tell me it's fine. But it's a little hard to believe, to be honest with you, okay? It's a little bit hard to believe as I get that throbbing feeling.
Yeah.
I get a little throbbing feeling.
Well, if you find out, we'd love to know. We continue to ask.
I know. No, I
and
understand.
a lot of people ask us.
It's a little bit strange. We have incredible people in there now, so can't blame that.
Well, you've been very generous with your time. I'll just wrap it up with this. This is, in the minds of Democrats, Republicans, a very successful trip. Big picture.
All right, so that was Trump a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Now, he hints till he has some foreign apps. Now, remember, they was able to spoil the plans of those quote-unquote sleeper cells that they caught, you know, who put that Iran had tried to pay $500K to unalive Trump. Then Trump did this. Hold on. Then here go the ones I'm talking about right here.
A stunning release by the U.S. Justice Department, a formally sealed indictment detailing an assassination attempt against President-elect Donald Trump ahead of this week's election.
Yeah, and there's a whole lot to unpack here. We want to bring in former FBI agent Ross Rice. Ross, thanks for joining us today. Wow, this is something. Federal prosecutors in Manhattan say that in September, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard set in motion plans for surveilling Donald Trump.
Thank you,
and
Alexander.
they ultimately had tried to make...
anybody who thought I was capping about those people, those 3 charged in the Iranian unaliving plot against Trump. Let's talk about it, man. I be knowing what I'm talking about, man. I've been paying attention to the news for a long time.
Make an attempt on his life. So the question is, why would Iran plot an assassination attempt on Donald Trump on U.S. soil?
Well, Sylvia, according to the complaint that was unsealed today, this goes back to 2020 when Donald Trump was president. And
let's talk about it, Fly Rebel.
He ordered an airstrike that killed an Iranian general in Iraq. And Iran has been vowing revenge for this attack ever since. And according to the complaint, this conspiracy, this plot, really began in December of last year.
Ross, in court papers, prosecutors identify a man named Farhad Shakiri who was living in the U.S. He was deported back to Iran after serving prison time. He was allegedly running a criminal network out of that New York prison.
He was deported back to where? Where was he deported back to? Who are we into it with right now? Who stood by our side when Trump first took out Soleimani? Israel. You know what I'm saying? Who are we into it right now? Iran. Who was Iran into it with? Israel. 1 + 1 = 2 all the time. Was this about nukes or was it personal? Let me know with the information that I'm putting in front of you. What do you think?
That sounds awfully concerning for U.S. security agencies.
It's very concerning, Scott, and this goes well beyond being a typical criminal investigation. Short term, that's exactly what we have. The FBI uncovered a plot. 3 people have been charged. 2 are in custody. But this is state-sponsored. This isn't 2 or 3 rogues getting together and saying, "Hey, let's try and assassinate the president-elect." This is coming from the highest levels of the Iranian government. And long term, it's not a law enforcement solution. It's not something the FBI, Iranian government. And long term, it's not a law enforcement solution. It's the highest levels of the Iranian government.
Oh, yeah,
and long term, it's not a law enforcement solution. It's not something the FBI can address.
And this is something interesting that we've learned too as a result of these unsealed indictments that apparently 2 individuals, details attempting by 2 individuals to assassinate a Brooklyn, New York human rights activist who's been known to be critical of Iran's treatment of women. Is Iran facing pressure on the issue of women's rights? How does this go into play?
Well, yes, they don't like anyone to speak negatively about their regime. And according to the complaint, Sylvia, there were actually 4 individuals that were targeted in the U.S., all U.S. citizens, one of them being the president-elect. So it's a much bigger plot than just 1 or 2 people. And again, looking at the complaint, it appears that the FBI had assistance from 2 unindicted co-conspirators. So these would be people that had now possibly participating in the early stages of, and for whatever reason began cooperating with the government, and that's what led to its unraveling.
All right, and I think maybe the most important question of all, once Donald Trump is in office, how can you
Let's get M up out of here. M, you're remedial, dog. Calm down talking about how you streaming another stream. This is my stream. Let's get you right up out of here. Ain't nobody else got this going but me. I put this together myself. What are you talking about? Let's give you a trip on your favorite rocket ship right up out of here, bozo. You the only bozo in the building because you the one that typed that. We'll see you later, homeboy.
Envision him potentially responding to this report?
Well, that's a great question, Scott. I think more importantly is how is the current administration going to respond to this? It's almost an act of war. And I don't know what Joe Biden is going to do in the next 2 or 3 months to address this. And hopefully it won't be left to Donald Trump to address. But I think it sends a message about the severity of the relationship between the U.S. and Iran. And I don't, again, from looking at this complaint, it appears there might be other operatives in the country that we're going to have to locate and neutralize short term.
Wow. Okay, Ross Rice, thank you so much for joining us and breaking this down.
So we found out about the 3 people that were basically charged in this assassination attempt. But wait, there's more. They gave us even more insight. Let's go here.
Finds that we are following now, a Pakistani man with ties to Iran has been charged in a plot.
With what? With ties to who? To ties to what?
We are following now. A Pakistani man with ties to Iran has been...
Oh, yeah, Iran again? Trying to take out Trump? I'm just saying.
...charged in a plot to potentially assassinate former President...
Somebody trying to take you out the game and you think this ain't personal? Let's be real, guys.
...ties to Iran has been charged in a plot to potentially assassinate former President Trump. Federal sources claiming the man was also looking to possibly kill other government officials from both sides of the aisle. Do want to bring in Nate Foy with Fox News following all of the developments here. Good afternoon, Nate. A lot to this.
Yeah, certainly. So the criminal complaint was unsealed yesterday. It doesn't mention any specific politicians by name, but Attorney General Merrick Garland says that it's related to the 2020 assassination of Iranian...
And guess what? I see people down there saying, well, it sounds like BS. Well, if it's BS, Trump put it out along with his team, and it was reported on the news. So go tell them it's some BS. Yeah, we most definitely, God, dog. We most definitely under the, oh, man, forget it.
In general, Qasem Soleimani, he was killed in a drone strike ordered by former President Donald Trump. So take a look at this Pakistani national who was arrested a few weeks ago.
This is one of the guys right here, you know what I'm saying? He's a Pakistani, you know, but he has ties to Iran, guys. This is one of the guys that tried to take Trump out the game. Let's talk about it.
This point, but we just learned of this yesterday. His name is Asif Merchant. He visited Iran 2 weeks before coming to the United States back in April.
Yeah, we most definitely exercised the Fair Use Act of 1976. This is for educational purposes only, guys.
And former President Donald Trump reacted to his arrest on Fox and Friends this morning. Listen to this.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm in a very dangerous business. Being president is a dangerous thing. And especially when you're an active president, when you're somebody that wants to make our country secure, when you want to build a strong military.
So U.S. officials say this is unrelated to the attempted assassination of Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania on July 13th. But keep in mind, federal agents arrested Merchant just 1 day before that rally. Merchant sketched out assassination scenarios on a napkin in a New York City hotel room. He told a confidential informant that his targets hurt Pakistan and the Muslim world. Merchant had 3 objectives with different code words for each one. Take a look at this. This was found in his wallet during his arrest. T-shirt on the...
Let's see what he got here. It says T-shirt. I can't read that one or that one. I see a fleece, denim. Maybe the news is going to say it. Hold on, let's see.
Note meant starting a protest that was meant to be a diversion during an assassination attempt. Flannel shirt meant stealing documents or USB drives from a target's home, and fleece jacket meant murdering a target. Now, Merchant even paid undercover agents who he believed to be assassins a $5,000 advance to do the job. Now, he told them that he would communicate the targets, the people that they should kill, when he left the country. Instead, before he could do that, thankfully he got arrested. The assassinations were supposed to happen as part of his plan by the end of this month or the beginning of next month. But thankfully, federal agents were able to stop that plan. We'll send it back.
Yeah.
Back to you.
Yeah, thankfully they were able to get him. Thank you so much, Nate.
So, you know, yeah, man, man, look, they was trying to take Trump out the game, guys. Iran. And it's very crazy that those are the same people that right now at this time and place that we just went over there and basically attacked, you know, behind some nukes. And that's why I've been asking the question, do you really think it was nukes or was it personal, guys? Now, here goes Trump signing his executive order and saying basically if anything happens to him at the hands of Iran, we should obliterate the country. Let's talk about it.
I'm signing this and I'm unhappy to do it, but I really have not so much choice because we have to be strong and firm, and I hope that it's not going to have to be used in any great measure at all. It'd be great if we could have a Middle East and maybe a world at total peace.
We don't want to be tough on Iran. We don't want to be tough on anybody, but they just can't have a nuclear weapon.
You don't want to be tough on who?
Iran. We don't want to be tough on anybody, but they just can't have a nuclear weapon.
Say it again.
We don't want to be tough on Iran. We don't want to be tough on anybody, but they just can't have a nuclear weapon.
Mr. President, you are engaged in conversations with your counterpart in Iran?
I would.
And why say that you're unhappy to sign it if it's Iran and their proxies who have threatened to retaliate against you and your team by killing you guys for taking out Soleimani?
Well, they haven't done that, and that would be a terrible thing for them to do. Not because of me. If they did that, they would be obliterated. That would be the end. I've left instructions. If they do it, they get obliterated. There won't be anything left. And they shouldn't be able to do it. And Biden should have said that, but he never did. I don't know why, lack of intelligence, perhaps. But he never said it.
Mr. President, when you said if they do it, they get obliterated. Just to be clear, you're talking about if Iran made an attempt on your life.
Yeah.
If who made an attempt on Trump's life?
Made an attempt on.
But he never said it.
Mr. President, when you said if they do it, they get obliterated. Just to be clear, you're talking about if Iran made an attempt on your life.
Yeah, that would be called total obliteration.
That would be called total obliteration, guys. You know what I'm saying? And that was Trump himself. He put that out there. You know what I'm saying? He said that. So I'm asking y'all, man, do y'all think this is personal or is it all about nukes? You know what I'm saying? No answer is the wrong answer. I'm just asking. Now, I hear a lot of y'all talking about this ceasefire is BS. Now, that finishes, you know, my little segment that I had on it being personal or not. Now we move into some of the things of today where we most definitely heard them say that Israel and Iran has agreed to a ceasefire. You know, hold on. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you vote on the poll. If you haven't voted, go ahead and vote right now. I'm going to end the poll because I'm done with that segment. After hearing about Soleimani and the attempts on Trump's life, you know, basically, do y'all still think it's all about nukes, guys? Is it about nukes or is it personal? You know, I see people still voting. I'm going to give y'all a couple of minutes before we move into the ceasefire. I just want to know what y'all think about it, man. You know, I most definitely put that together from the past to present just so y'all could get a further understanding of what was going on in case you missed that all that time back when Trump was president the first time. And we went through the same type of ordeal with Iran, you know, and basically Trump unalived one of their top leaders, and they wasn't happy about that. Israel backed Trump, and now in the present day, Israel is under attack by Iran, and Trump is backing Israel, guys. I'm just saying. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to end this poll, and I'm going to let y'all know what the results are. All right, so out of 1,000 votes, you know, I asked, was Trump involvement personal? 56% said yes, and 43% said no. So a majority of the people in the chat feel like this is more personal than about nukes when it comes to Trump and Iran. Let's go. Now let's find out about this ceasefire. Shout out to everybody in the building, man. Make sure y'all continue to double tap that screen and get those likes up. We most definitely talking about Israel, Iran, and the U.S. and this ceasefire that Trump says is going on between Israel and Iran.
Strikes against Iranian nuclear facilities. President Trump will head to The Hague tomorrow for a NATO summit. Senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy is already there tonight with the latest. Good evening, Peter.
Good evening, Brett. President Trump didn't want to be out of the country for the tail end of the G7 last week because he needed to monitor the situation in Iran from the Situation Room at the White House. But with this ceasefire announcement tonight, there's expected to be enough of a break in the action that he will soon cross the Atlantic for this week's NATO summit.
He has prevented a nuclear conflict.
Today, President Trump watched Iran retaliate against a U.S. base in Qatar that he visited just last month.
Al Udeid Air Base, sometimes referred to as the deed.
Qatar has continued to act as the middleman during back-channel talks between the U.S. and Iran, and today the president said, "I'd like to thank the highly respected Emir of Qatar for all that he has done in seeking peace for the region." But the president is still concerned about oil prices and roughly 20% of the world's oil and natural gas shipments getting stuck if Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz.
Even the threat is increasing the price of oil.
The Iranian people need it in order to survive for their own economic benefits or not thereof.
Iran, they need the revenue from oil. China wants their oil, they get it at a deep discount.
Ahead of President Trump's visit to the NATO summit tomorrow, one country is already saying they won't be spending more on defense: Spain.
We are normalizing the fact that certain powers are bombing each other, that their leaders exchange nuclear threats, and that the civilian population is the one suffering all these consequences.
So far, 22 of 32 NATO member states pay 2% of their GDP, as expected, but the president plans to pressure them to start spending 5%.
The president has been adamant, and our NATO allies, to their credit, heeded the president's strong call in his first term, and we expect them to do it this time around as well.
And we just reported about President Trump saying thanks to the Emir of Qatar for their efforts to bring peace to the Middle East. We now have a source familiar telling us that Qatar was passing messages from U.S. diplomats to Iranian diplomats in the lead up to today's attack on Al Udeid Air Base. As for here in the Netherlands, leaders this week want a strong NATO because it is a big deterrent against Russian aggression. But all this action in Iran may suck up more of the oxygen than they were planning on, because these leaders of countries with strong militaries want to know what is going to happen next, especially because the way that NATO works, if one member gets attacked, they are all responsible for helping with the defense. Brett?
Article 5, Peter Ducey at The Hague. Peter, thanks.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Ingram Angle. I'm Laura Ingram, my angle in moments. But first, tonight, we begin with major breaking news. It's a development that few thought was possible even a few days ago. But with President Trump in charge, we've seen time and time again, the so-called experts are proven wrong. President Trump says Israel and Iran have agreed to a full ceasefire taking effect in just a few hours. In a Truth Social post...
So if you think the ceasefire is BS, blame it on Trump and his team, because they most definitely have reported that Israel and Iran, have agreed to a ceasefire, guys.
In the last hour, the president wrote, "Congratulations to everyone. There will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now, when Israel and Iran would have wound down and completed their in-progress final missions for 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended." On that assumption that everything works out as it should, which it will, I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12-day war.
What's up, Miss?
This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. Here with me now is Brett Baer, chief political anchor and special report anchor, executive editor there as well. Brett, you were on the air. We were all watching with Vice President Vance when Trump's Truth Social post landed. So that was in and of itself kind of hilarious. But do we have details about how this all came together in the last hour?
Well, Laura, good evening. It really was something. Let me just give you the behind the scenes. Trey Yanks was in the middle of wrapping up his report from Tel Aviv, and the producer got in my ear saying, "Trump Truth Social coming in the email right now." And I looked down, the vice president's right here on set with me. And as I look down to read it, his staff comes in with an iPhone so he can read the Truth Social as it's coming in. And Trey Yanks wraps up his live report. I thank him. I introduce the vice president and obviously start with what we just heard and saw. And he said he had heard about it, talked about it, hadn't seen the final version, and that's what he was reacting to. Since then, we've learned that Qatar was the intermediary, and that Iran officials are now saying they did, in fact, authorize Qatar to negotiate on their behalf, at least according to Reuters and other wire services. and that the Israelis are going to agree to this in a 6-hour time frame. Now, what happens between now and the 6 hours? I expect a lot of kinetic.
So if you don't believe in the ceasefire, it's most definitely real, guys, according to the news and according to social media posts, guys. Now, remember, Trump said, where was it at? Let me see, ceasefire. All right, it says officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day battle will be saluted by the world, guys. That's what Trump said. I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying. Let's go.
Action inside Iran from the Israelis, but that's what it looks like. And then the details that the president laid out about how it follows over the next 24, 48 hours, we don't know what that picture looks like or whether it leads to negotiations.
Well, what was stunning is that just in the last several hours, the supreme leader put out a statement saying, we will not submit. We will never submit. So something was changing in that interim time period, and I guess he was made an offer he couldn't refuse.
Maybe so. We don't know. The supreme leader is supposed to be holed up in a bunker. That the going thing in Iran, we're told, is that everyone doesn't know where.
So the supreme leader of Iran said we ain't surrendering. And then all of a sudden, you know, I guess he changed his mind. I don't know what was in it for nobody or whatever, but they have basically come to the table and said that they agree to the ceasefire.
Is except the Israelis and the U.S. And they have said that they could take him out at any time. I don't know what has transpired that changed the Iranians' bold action, other than to read the tea leaves here. They gave a pre-warning about the missile strike on Qatar and the El Udeid Air Base, saying this is going to happen. Get your people out of there. And then the air defenses took down those missiles, including one from Qatar. And you know, I think that the president's very weak response post and let's get to peace.
Hey, guys, I need everybody to take time. Click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up, man. It helps out the channel. If you don't mind, please do that. I ain't asked you for 1 red cent. All I ask is that you hit that like button if you are enjoying the content, and most definitely subscribe to the channel. If you new, this is the update about the ceasefire that's taking place between Israel and Iran, man. Shout out to everybody in the building.
Started phone calls between all of the parties, according to the vice president. And in between the time he left the White House and the time he arrived on this set, something had transpired to get that Truth Social post.
And the president even thanked Iran for the heads up, as you noted with Vance, which it all seemed like it was missile theater at some point. They gave them a chance to save face, shoot up a couple of, you know, what looked like Roman candles when they were missiles, but and no damage was done as far as we understand on the ground. So you wonder why they even went through that exercise, but nevertheless, the president didn't choose to humiliate Iran in this moment, which I think that's classic Trump. He wants to give people a way out.
He did say, let's get to peace, let's get to the table. He called it very weak and thanked them for the heads up. But, you know, it follows a pattern. In 2020, the Iranians did the same thing. They fired on an a U.S. military base in Iraq, but they also...
In 2020, ain't that when Trump took out Soleimani? I'm just saying, see, everything ties in to what's going on right now. You got to know where you've been in order to know where you're going. You know, and sometimes the past could most definitely dictate the future.
Gave a heads up ahead of time. That was after the Soleimani assassination, the takedown of the main military commander for Iran by the U.S.
Did he just say Soleimani?
Takedown of the ahead of time. That was after the Soleimani assassination, the takedown of the main military commander for Iran by the U.S. And so it follows a pattern. We'll see if this also follows a ceasefire, because as you know, the Israelis feel like they have a lot of superiority in the skies and they can take out targets at will, and they're on the cusp of making a big change to their existential threat. So it may be tough for them to agree to it, but I think the president is pushing.
And Brett, although people don't want to be political in this moment, politics always enters the equation. We had an enormous amount of kind of nastiness across the political aisle over the last few days regarding the president's decision. So some Democrats were more, tepid about it, but others were basically very, very negative on what the president was doing. How do you see this moment playing out politically?
I mean, John Fetterman was the only Democrat I saw very vocal in his support of the action. Others were either tepid or saying it was unconstitutional and he had to come to
Hey
Congress.
guys, we are 30 likes from 300. We got 792 people and only got 276 likes. Click those three dots, hit that thumbs up, and most definitely subscribe to the channel if you are new. It will be greatly appreciated by the channel. Thank you.
First. I think a lot of those Democrats, if you look back at President Obama's actions in Lebanon, in Syria, they were not anywhere near as vocal about the congressional authorization issue back then. Politically, I think it plays pretty well. He's kept his party largely together. There are some vocal voices, as you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene and others, Tom Massey, but fairly small in number and in voice. And I think it really depends how the ceasefire works out and what comes next.
Brett, thank you very much. That was an unbelievable interview. Energy Secretary Chris Wright. Mr. Secretary, big news tonight, before we booked you to come on the show, about this ceasefire deal that's going to take effect, the ceasefire, in just a few hours from now. Your thoughts about this day, especially as it related to the oil shipments through the Gulf, through the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran's threats. You heard the Admiral's comments, but Americans were very concerned.
Yeah, look, Donald Trump is just simply a transformative president. A little over a week ago, major hostilities break out in the Middle East. And as the Admiral just talked about, this is the lifeblood of global oil flows. Big flows for natural gas as well. Everyone's predicting for sure over $100 oil is just around the corner. Then we have strong leadership from our president, precision strikes over the weekend to take out Iran's key nuclear facilities. Everyone thinks that's another $20 on the price of oil. And here we are Monday evening, and oil dropped below $70 a barrel. And more importantly for American consumers,
a lot of people seem to think that this whole situation is behind oil as well. You know, not no nukes, but more about oil. What y'all think about that? Y'all think this is about oil? Now, they said that the price has went up, even with talks about us getting into it with Iran on our oil, since that's where we get our oil from, guys. Could this be about oil?
You know, wholesale gasoline was down over 10 cents today and diesel down 15%. That is the collective benefits of President Trump's energy dominance agenda and his strong, clear, peace through strength leadership style. It's just transforming the Middle East.
Now, Mr. Secretary, for those of us who were young politicos back in the 80s, and I happen to work for President Reagan, this is a Reagan-esque move on the part of President Trump. I mean, the America First agenda at play. There were a lot of people on the right who were very concerned, and you know, I had my concerns. I don't like any military involvement if we can avoid it. But he made a decision that there was no good reason to avoid this military engagement. That it was critical for America First.
I love the Reagan-esque comparison. Ronald Reagan just looked at the Soviet Union completely differently than all the leaders before him. He saw the black and white. He saw the good and evil. And the only way you win is by being clear and strong and bold. And he did just that. Donald Trump got elected to do the same thing with American energy policy and with American foreign policy. Iran has been a mess. They've been the cause of all the trouble and instability for 46 years now in this entire region of the world. He didn't follow the old playbook, the Biden playbook of appeasement, ask them nicely to do less bad behavior, don't enforce the sanctions and give Iran a bunch of money. That didn't work. President Trump came in with a very different approach, and we're still in the midst of this, but just dramatically different results in the Middle East and for American energy buyers.
Now, Mr. Secretary, we're just getting new details in about the ceasefire. Reuters is reporting that President Trump brokered the agreement with a phone call with Netanyahu this afternoon.
So Trump is responsible for the ceasefire, you know, according to the press, guys. They said he brokered it. You know, they say Trump is a very good businessman, you know, and if you do the wrong thing, you're fired.
And that Vance, Rubio, and Envoy Witkoff held direct and indirect talks over the last few days with the Iranians. Again, to your point, he just decided to abandon this idea that you don't treat Iran like they're real people there. And he's like, they are people. They want a better life. Someone there wants a better life for these people. I'm going to try to play to that while I play America's strength on the world stage. But the old guard, they didn't go the Trump way, and they talked him down for years and years, and no one else could have pulled this off. And again, assuming this all holds.
I agree, Laura. Just a totally transformative style. You know, President Trump's one constituency is the American people. And when he does foreign policy, who's his constituency in Iran? 90 million Iranians. That was, this is an educated, technically successful, pretty doing well society not long ago, and it's gone backwards for 46 years. Those Iranians, they want peace and trade and prosperity just like we want in the United States, just like the rest of the Middle East does. Maybe they're going to get a taste of it.
What's up, Miss?
Oh, they're going to have to step up and find their new leader. Mr. Secretary, the president said drill, baby, drill today or yesterday when he was concerned about the price perhaps of oil going up, but this seems like great news so far. Thank you very much for joining us. Explain, Jonathan Turley, George Washington University law prof and Fox News contributor. I mean, that was a tough moment for old AOC there. The ceasefire, so we got to impeach Trump. Yeah. Jonathan, let's go to the substance of this. The substance of this, because I know you have some history about ceasefire negotiations and a president.
I'm not late, bro. I'm right on time. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got to go when it first go on or whatever. This is my channel. I could have reported the ceasefire tomorrow. I don't have to be on top of it right when it drops. Some things I will, some things I won't. But most definitely, I'm relaying the information, whether it's late or not, that there was a ceasefire that was declared. Let's talk about it.
Involved and these kinds of things. But tell us what we should know.
Well, you have to feel for AOC. You're all dressed up for an impeachment and peace breaks out. It's sort of a Marissa Tomei moment from My Cousin Vinny. What a nightmare. And the problem is that it doesn't make for a very good impeachment, and that's why she was struggling. The other problem is that if this is impeachable, you could impeach a good number of presidents going back to Thomas Jefferson, who moved against the Barbary Pirates. You would also include Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. I mean, Obama in 2016 alone dropped over 26,000 bombs on countries ranging from Somalia to Syria to Afghanistan to Iraq. There was no suggestion by Democrats.
Face-Off said, no, you late with the hating. Yeah, let's go, Face-Off. Get on his top.
So they had to immediately impeach Barack Obama. The fact is that presidents have always claimed this authority to be able to commit troops and take military action. And yes, in my view, this is an act of war, but the way that courts and Congress have interpreted it is not something that requires a declaration. And keep in mind, we've only declared 11 wars in our history. We've had over 125 military operations, some going on for years, without such a declaration, including Vietnam and Korea.
I think it's probably a good idea for Congress to have to weigh in on war, especially protracted conflicts and boots on the ground. But this obviously was...
Well, according to Sabrina said allegedly both sides are still firing off shots. So the ceasefire might not have been all we thought it was. Hey, man, I'm just saying. I showed y'all what Trump said. Let me tell y'all again. He said Iran will start the ceasefire upon the 12th hour. Israel will start the ceasefire upon the 24th hour and officially end to the 12-day battle will be saluted by the world. So, maybe we ain't in the 24th hour yet, maybe they 12th hours ain't came yet. That's why they still going. But he's saying ultimately in 24 hours, it'll be over, basically. Get back to where I was at.
Her point was ridiculous from the beginning. Now, we had another big win for President Trump today. I mean, he has lots of wins to talk about today. But this was the Supreme Court, at least temporarily, clearing the way for the White House to speed up these deportations and send illegals to countries where they have no previous ties. How important is this, Jonathan, tonight?
This is enormously important. It gives a great number of options now to the Trump administration. It should have the effect of speeding up deportations. This Boston judge actually said...
Crazy. The chat said, "Hey man, they just getting their last ones off. You know, before they're done, they trying to blow up as much as they can before they cease fire."
He believed the Supreme Court and Congress were on his side. Well, obviously he was wrong about one of those by 6-3, because that's the result today. And the court said you can't send people to a country other than their home country. That is a major stumbling block for the administration. They have a lot of people to deport, but they also don't have cooperative countries often on the other side. This gives them options, and you can bet they're going to use it.
Yeah, and I think the Trump administration does not have the time to give the process that the left thinks every illegal alien is due. Most of them have already been given their own due process. But Jonathan, this is fascinating. Incredible day of news. Thank you very much.
What happened with Iran in the Middle East, and some breaking news coming just now. Joining us this evening, Vice President J.D. Vance. Mr. Vice President, thanks for coming.
Absolutely, thank you.
Just seconds ago, the president went to Truth Social and typed this. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete...
That's exactly, he reading exactly what I just read to y'all.
...total ceasefire. Complete and total ceasefire is what he typed.
Yep.
What does that mean? How did it come about? What's the development?
Here goes J.D. Vance.
Well, we were actually working on that just as I left the White House to come over here, so that's good news that the president was able to get that across the finish line. I think what it means, Brett, is quite simple. First of all, the president, without, knock on wood, having a single American casualty, obliterated the Iranian nuclear program. We are now in a place where we weren't a week ago. A week ago, Iran was very close to having a nuclear weapon. Now, Iran is incapable of building a nuclear weapon with the equipment they have because we destroyed it. So that's a very, very big thing. Now, what that means, I think, is we have to talk to Iran and, of course, to Israel about what the future holds. Because
let me say this. They keep on saying we obliterated their nuclear sites. But they also said that the person who inspects those type of situations or goes in there and verifies it hasn't been able to go verify it. So at this time, we really don't know if we did or not, is what other people are saying, because the expert, the person who goes in there, the inspector, hasn't been able to go in and see if we actually did that. Some people saying that we just hit some mountains. We didn't even hit their site. And other people are saying we completely obliterated. So until they are able to go get, that inspector is able to get in there, we don't know if we exactly did it or not, unless we just take Vice President Vance and President Trump's word for it.
While we have obliterated the Iranian nuclear program, our hope and our expectation is that they're not going to try to rebuild that program. And I think that's what the president is really trying to figure out here, is to build a long-term settlement here to where we can have peace in the region, where our regional allies and, of course, the American people, most importantly, can be secured, but where we can ensure that the destruction of the Iranian nuclear program that has already happened is not something they try to rebuild.
I want to get to the obliterated part in just a minute, but I just want to read this fully so I get the context here. Congratulations to everyone. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now, when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in-progress final missions for 12 hours, at which point, the ceasefire for 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful on the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will. I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. God bless Israel. God bless Iran. God bless Iran. God bless the Middle East. God bless the United States of America. And God bless the world. He seems confident that this is all coming together.
That's right.
And when you left the White House, were you thinking this was all gelling here?
When I left the White House, I thought that we might be able to get it across the finish line before this broadcast, and it looks like the president has been able to do that. I mean, look, he's been working the phones constantly. Frankly, before the 12-day war started, but certainly over the past 12 days, the president's been extremely clear about America's national objective here. It is to create a world
where Iran cannot build a nuclear weapon. We, of course, destroyed the nuclear program that they had, and the president told the entire team, we're going to work to make sure that they don't try to rebuild that nuclear capability in the future. And it's, look, this is a great thing. For Israel, think about this. They've accomplished an important military objective. They've helped us destroy the Iranian nuclear program. They've also destroyed the conventional missile capability of Iran that threatened the country of Israel. For the Iranians, I think this is a new opportunity to actually pursue the path of peace. As I said yesterday, what the Iranians have showed through their support of terror networks, through their now failed effort to build a nuclear weapon, is that they're just not very good at war. And I think the president really hit the reset button and said, look, let's actually produce long-term peace for the region. That's always been his goal. I actually think when we look back, we will say the 12-day war was an important reset moment for the entire region.
Would you be surprised if Iran is sending out signals that it doesn't have a specific ceasefire plan?
Let's
How
go,
would the
sincere. I
communication
see you
have
down
been
there getting
with
active.
the Iranians to get this level of confidence to put out that detailed statement?
Well, one of the things I've learned, Brett, about the Iranians in the past, 4 or 5 months that I've been in this job is what they say publicly and privately can sometimes be very different. I think what the Iranians have shown very
Vice
clearly
President
is they don't
Vance,
want
guys,
this war to go
on
on
this
for much
ceasefire.
longer. Their air defenses have been totally destroyed. Their conventional missile program has been largely destroyed. And of course, their nuclear program has been obliterated, as I said before.
Shout out to everybody that's just now entering. We're talking about the ceasefire between Israel and Iran. We got JD Vance giving his take on it. Could you please double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device, or click those 3 dots. Hit that thumbs up. It helps out the channel. And most definitely subscribe if you are new.
So I think the Iranians are at a place where they don't want to keep on fighting. You saw the president, and I don't have the truth in front of me, but he talked about the next 6 hours finalizing the attacks. I mean, I think what he's talking about is right now, for the American people watching, it's dark over there. That's typically when the Israelis and the Iranians have been shooting at each other. I think there's some recognition that that might continue for another few hours, and tomorrow really is a new day. The end of the 12-day war, the end of the Iranian nuclear program, and I really do believe the beginning of something very big for peace in the Middle East.
So you said totally obliterated. The president has said totally obliterated the Iran nuclear program.
Yeah.
Do you know for sure where all the highly enriched uranium is?
Well, Brett, I think that's actually not the question before us. The question before us is, can Iran enrich the uranium to a weapons-grade level, and can they convert that fuel to a nuclear weapon? And we know, based on the success of our mission, of course, the leadership of the president, but the incredible skill of our military, that the 2 mission objectives are completely successful. We know that they cannot build a nuclear weapon. Now, you asked about the highly enriched uranium.
Yeah, like 900 pounds of it.
But what we know, Brett, is that uranium is something that exists in very large supply. Our goal was to bury the uranium, and I do think the uranium is buried, but our goal was to eliminate the enrichment and eliminate their ability to convert that enriched fuel into a nuclear weapon. I think that's an important point, Brett, because so many of the folks who have focused on the highly enriched uranium, 60%. The main focus, Brett, has been to destroy their enrichment capacity, because we don't want that 60% uranium to become 90% uranium. That's the real concern, and that's what was so successful about our mission.
So after all this, if the Iranian government survives as is, what's to stop it from rebuilding over time if they in fact moved the 60% highly enriched uranium? That's the concern.
No, the big concern, Brett, and this is again what we destroyed, is their ability to enrich uranium. If they have 60% enriched uranium, but they don't have the ability to enrich it to 90%, and further, they don't have the ability to convert that to a nuclear weapon, that is mission success. That is the obliteration of their nuclear program, which is why the president, I think, rightly is using that term. But here's the question. If Iran is desperate to build a nuclear weapon in the future, then they're going to have to deal with a very, very powerful American military again. Our hope is that the lesson that the Iranians have learned here is, look, we can fly a bunker buster bomb from Missouri to Iran completely undetected without landing once on the ground, and we can destroy whatever nuclear capacity you build up.
And that's exactly
I think that
what
lesson
they did.
is what's going to teach them not to rebuild their nuclear capacity.
Yesterday, were you speaking on the president's behalf when you said he was not interested in regime change?
Well, Brett, what I've said is the American military, that is not our mission as regime change. Our mission was to destroy the nuclear facilities and the nuclear program of Iran, which we, of course, did. I think what the president's also said is that the Iranian people want to make a decision about regime change. That's between the Iranian people and the regime. Of course, we support freedom fighters all around the world, but our mission was to destroy the nuclear facilities, and that's what we did.
So you don't think there's any
Thank
mixed
you,
message
Lenise.
when
What's
he goes to
up?
Truth Social and says it's not politically correct to use the term regime change, but if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? Miga.
Well, I think what the president is saying very clearly, Brett, is if the Iranian people want to do something about their own leadership, that's up to the Iranian people. What the American national security interest here is very simple. It's to destroy the nuclear program. That's what we've done. And now that the 12-day war appears to be effectively over, we have an opportunity, I think, to restart a real peace process. And Brett, this is not just about two countries, Iran and Israel. All of these Gulf Arab states, they want peace. They want to invest. They want to build artificial intelligence hardware. They want to sort of come into the new economy. And that was impossible when you had Iran that was, as the president said, acting like a bully across the Middle East. We really think that if the Iranians are smart about the path forward, this could be a new dawn of an economic age.
Felipe, whatever his name is down there, say these guys are lying. What y'all think about it?
Future prosperity, of course, for our Gulf Arab allies, for us, for the Israelis, for everybody, but it's going to require the Iranians play it smart from here.
The president called it very weak, the Iran missile firing on the U.S. base in Qatar, Al Udeid. Was it a face-saving move? How do you get from that, firing missiles at a U.S. base, to a ceasefire, as he details in this Truth Social?
Well, as the president said, they actually gave us some warning here. And we think they gave us some warning because they didn't want to kill Americans and they didn't want to escalate. There's definitely some symbolism to this, Brett. If you look at the Iranian attack, it was 14 missiles that they telegraphed ahead of time. We dropped 14 bunker buster bombs. As the president told me earlier, our missiles, our bombs were a little bit bigger than their bombs. Our bombs actually accomplished the goal of eliminating their nuclear program. But look, we're happy, again, to restart the peace process as the president just did today.
Was the message delivered directly to the U.S. or through an emissary?
The message is always delivered through some sort of intermediary. That's been consistently true of the Iranians. Of course, we'd love to talk to them. The president's been clear about this. We'd love to have a direct conversation about how we move this thing forward because, again, we got to step back here. Why did the president do what he did over the past week? It's so that we could destroy their nuclear program. If they try to rebuild it, they're going to be on the wrong end of American power once again. We don't want that. I think they don't want that, but the ball's in their hands.
You've been reluctant or at least cautious about getting engaged previously, and that has been public. What made you sign on to this action this time?
Well, I think the president has been very clear, and I've always agreed with the president that Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. And you try to run the diplomatic process as much as you possibly can. When the president decided that wasn't going to work, he took the action that he had to take. Now we're in a new phase. That action was successful. We had a wildly successful military operation to take out their nuclear program. Now let's go on to the next phase. And I think the president, look, sometimes he's willing to use peace. Sometimes he's willing to use the military. I think it really depends on what the Iranians do from here.
And what do you think they do from here?
Well, it's an open question, Brett.
Well, basically, Vance saying, man, this ceasefire is very real, and that they most definitely felt like Iran had nuclear capabilities and they wanted to eliminate that, in which they did. That's what they saying. Continue to get those likes up by hitting those 3 dots, hitting that thumbs up, and most definitely subscribe to the channel if you're new, man.
I don't want to predict what the other side will do, but I think that I know what we'll do if they continue to pursue a nuclear weapon, and I hope they don't choose that path because I know the president wants to see the Middle East become peaceful and prosperous in the future. That's not going to happen if Iran pursues a nuclear weapon again.
And for the people, so we talked about the people who believe that this is going towards World War III, especially in your own party, there's a section.
Yeah, and there is a lot of people that believe this is WW3, the beginning, guys. Let's see what J.D. Vance has to say about the potential of this being WW3.
It's very vocal. There's another section that says you should take out this regime
questions,
because it's evil and horrible and has done horrible things for decades. How do you square those two sides? And can this regime stay in place and still have a peaceful, reaction relationship with the U.S.?
Well, I think the president has squared those two sides quite well. One, because he's the leader of the movement, and a lot of people trust the president, as they should. They recognize they're not seeing the same intelligence. They're not seeing the same classified documents. They trust the president to do a good job. But importantly, Brett, I think he's threaded the needle quite well here. We had a very particular objective. It was profound and difficult to accomplish.
Do you think
the
they were
elimination
close?
of the Iranian nuclear program.
Do you think they were
and I
close?
think the president successfully did that. You're asking, were the Iranians close to a nuclear weapon? Brett, they were very close to a nuclear weapon. And what I encourage my fellow Americans to think about here is that a week ago, the Iranians were quite close to achieving a nuclear weapon. Now they cannot build a nuclear weapon. That is the biggest testament to the president's leadership and to the success of our mission. In 1 week, without, thank God so far, not losing a single American casualty, we have taken what was a threatening nuclear program that could have destabilized the entire world. Now that program is gone. We did it through effective presidential leadership and also some very, very competent work from our troops.
How often does it happen where you're going to do an interview and you get a Truth Social seconds before? You have some sense of it, but it's pretty detailed, where you are being asked about something the president has just put out.
In this administration, Brett, it happens quite a bit, actually, but we knew this was coming. The draft, it was interesting. I just read the draft about 2 minutes before we went on the air. It was a little bit different from what the president had showed me a couple of hours ago. But again, I knew that he was working the phones as I was on the way over here. So I knew exactly what we were going to do. And look, I love that about this presidency and this administration, is he's always working. He doesn't say, you know, the vice president's going to do an interview, so I'm going to stop doing anything. He says, you know, we're going to do the American people's business. The vice president knows what I'm trying to accomplish. And if I get it done, great, because we're going to talk about it and celebrate it, because it is a thing to celebrate. I can't emphasize this enough, Brett. We have destroyed the Iranian nuclear program.
Sincere say, where's the proof? We need more proof.
0 Americans have died. That's an amazing, amazing thing. Americans, whether Democrats or Republicans, we should be celebrating that.
Mr. Vice President, we appreciate you coming and rolling with the punches as well. Thank you for the time.
Thanks, Brett. Good to see you.
Nationally syndicated radio host Dana Lash is here. All right, so how are the Democrats handling these strikes and this quick ceasefire?
Jesse, it's pretty unbelievable because they're all over the map on this. I mean, I remember going all the way back to like the Green Revolution and going back to Egypt and Libya.
Now, the biggest problem from the Democrats was that they felt like Trump was supposed to let them know, and he did not. And they are upset about that.
Democrats loved unilateral action. They loved unilateral action in Libya, going after Gaddafi and trying to reinstitute a bunch of Clinton stooges in order to nation build. They loved getting involved in Egyptian elections and backing the Muslim Brotherhood, as Hillary Clinton did, a banned entity in Egypt before then. They loved getting involved in Honduran elections and trying to back different leaders in Honduras. I mean, we could go on and on. I don't know if there's ever been a moment in my life where Democrats haven't loved unilateral action and nation building. And to just the cherry on top of all of this, everybody remembers the entire reason we are in this position in the first place is because of Jimmy Carter and Democrats back in the 70s when they decided to get rid of the Shah and they installed the Mullah regime. That's exactly why we're in this position. Democrats own it, so you would think that they would be celebrating that their legacy has come full circle, but they haven't yet. And as far as the argument on whether or not the office of the executive has unilateral action, I made my position very clear on my radio program, Jesse. I think war is a last resort. I'm not an interventionist, but I'm not a neocon. However, I would like to direct people to reread, if they haven't, or read James Madison in the Federalist Papers, because it's all brilliantly lined out. And it's in these things, Jesse, for progressives to read, called books.
You can have a noble objection to these strikes.
Sure.
There was people on the right who had it. There's people on the left that have it. And that's fine. And that's good. I mean, not everyone's going to agree on everything. But to say that, you know, that Trump should have asked your permission if you're Jasmine Crockett, I mean, what? I mean, I thought this was a secret aerial campaign. He's just supposed to announce to the world, Jasmine, can I please have your permission to do this? And that doesn't make any sense.
I get the objections from some of those coming on the right because they're genuine objections that come from a place of genuine concern. Just to remind everybody, we've grown up. I mean, Jesse, you and I have grown up our entire lives with military campaigns that had mission creep. You know, the objectives were changing. It turned into these long, protracted conflicts, and then, you know, multiple generations that were involved in it. I had multiple generations in my family that were in Iraq and Afghanistan. I mean, that's like wild that would even be considered commonplace in our culture. But we kind of got off base in terms of how we prosecute conflict. So to see a one and done, or to see a politician, an elected official say, we're going to get in, we're going to do this, and we're going to get out, we're not used to that yet. So I give a lot of grace to a lot of my friends on the right who aren't all on the same page with this. That being said, I think you can look back at POTUS's first term and see that everything that he engaged in militarily, we didn't get involved.
The Democrats are most definitely upset about not knowing, guys. I told y'all.
In any kind of long-term committed conflict. It wasn't mission creep. What he said, we went in and we did, and then we came back out with like the most limited loss of resource and even loss of human life. And that's how it should be. So I think we're still on the right kind of acclimating to this. However, I will add, on the left, there has never been any consistency. There has never been any proper follow through. There's never been any clear communication with the American people about any of their objectives, which again is why we're in this position in the first place. So I think it's good to have a healthy dose of caution. And I like what Congressman Thomas Massie, who I know, I think, you know, he's genuinely a kind-hearted person who comes at it from a very strictly constitutionalist angle. And thank God we have people like that holding down that spectrum in Congress. I think that we can all agree that it's better to have some of those folks in Congress than not. But to see where this goes, we have to make sure that, you know, the intelligence is accurate. That's all we've been acting on. I think that the president has demonstrated in previous military conflicts and engagements that he deserves the grace and the benefit of the doubt on this. I haven't always agreed with him on everything, but I'm willing to do that with this.
Yeah, he's earned the trust of the American people, especially what he's gone through.
All right, he said, Maher, Trump played Mo 3 outside right before he hit the button to send the strike. Let's talk about it. They scared to come outside? Yeah, real talk. All right, so whether y'all agree with her or not, she said about definitely not knowing that all of this was going on, guys. Now, a lot of people are debating whether whether to strike Iran was the right thing or the wrong thing to do. And most definitely, let me take y'all over here, because Piers Morgan most definitely had a great live about, you know, this whole situation, and most definitely a great debate. Let's check it out.
But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill.
Well, there are many targets left, the president says, and if Iran doesn't play ball, the United States will attack them too. But the administration took great care yesterday to make clear that the US does not want a long war and that regime change is not the aim.
Is the United States now at war with Iran?
No, Kristen, we're not at war with Iran.
Now, my whole thing with this was, why would you go over there, you know, and basically strike their base or their plants, and then be saying you don't want no problem? You can't do that. You know, that's when that an eye for an eye comes into play. You attack us, we attack you.
We're at war with Iran's nuclear program. We don't want a regime change. We do not want to protract this or build this out any more than it's already been built out. We want to end their nuclear program, and then we want to talk to the Iranians about a long-term settlement here.
This mission was not and has not been about regime change. The president authorized a precision operation to neutralize the threats to our national interests posed by the Iranian nuclear program.
The president, though, is not quite so clear. He posted last night, it's not politically correct to use the term regime change, but if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why shouldn't there be a regime change? But if the past 10 days show us anything, it's that any claim to understand Donald Trump's strategy based on these breadcrumbs.
Man, I most definitely need y'all to get those likes up. We 40 likes away from 400, man. We got over 1,000 people and been having over 700-800 people the whole live. Let's get those likes up, man. Show some appreciation for the channel by clicking those 3 dots, hitting that thumbs up, and subscribing to the channel if you're new. I haven't asked y'all for 1 red cent. Only thing I asked y'all is subscribe and to hit that like button. Shout out to everybody in the building that's still rocking. Let's see what Piers Morgan and his debaters have to say about all of this.
purely speculative. Only Trump knows his next move, and he likes it that way. The problem for those who are still soul-searching of whether to back him or striking Iran is that so is the damage the attacks have done. We don't yet know if Iran's nuclear facilities have been totally obliterated, as President Trump said. We don't yet know if Iran's massive stockpile of enriched uranium was wiped out in the US attack. Well, my view of the whole crisis is that too many people are basing
Now, mind you, he just said the same thing that I told y'all earlier. We don't know if they actually wiped it out or not, because basically the inspectors haven't been able to get in.
Of it, or whether they're instinctively anti-Trump, anti-Israel, anti-war. Two things can be true at the same time. You can support a precision strike on Iran's nuclear facilities without supporting another long conflict in the Middle East. You can oppose Western involvement without supporting the Ayatollah. And you can support Israel's position against a nuclear Iran while unequivocally condemning the suffering it's now inflicting on the people of Gaza. Breaking news, the world is complicated. And after the events of the past few days, it's not about to get any simpler. I'd like to welcome my panel now, Anna Kasparin, executive producer and host of The Young Turks, Jonathan Conricus, retired Lieutenant Colonel, IDF spokesman, Dinesh D'Souza, host of the Dinesh D'Souza podcast.
Oh, they got the Young Turks off in there. This should be great.
And retired Brigadier General Mark Kimmett, Assistant Secretary of State under George W. Bush. Well, General Kimmett, let me start with you. From a purely military perspective, how successful do you think, first, the Israeli strike on Iran has been, because it's ongoing, and secondly, the intervention by President Trump with American strikes?
I know that there were words being thrown around yesterday like obliterated, so on and so forth. But I believe when General Kane says partially destroyed at Fordow, I think that's really the best way to describe it. We don't have the bomb damage assessment yet. I think we need to wait for a technical assessment rather than a rhetorical assessment. So let's give it time. But I believe that General Kane is right when he says partially destroyed. There may be some reattacks when the bomb damage assessment comes back and says, this is how much we've taken out, and to take it out to your standards, to the military standards, we need to reattack this method. So I think the next time we're going to see...
I agree with him. We need to wait till they assess the damage before we go to saying that we obliterated anything. We're just basically going off what Trump them said, and they haven't had one inspector in to see if it's actually been cleared or not.
In the air is either for a reattack or to respond to an Iranian attack on American forces, embassies, or bases in the region.
And how likely is it, do you think, that Iran will respond by directly attacking American servicemen and women?
Oh, we've seen this before. When Qasem Soleimani was targeted, they sent 12 ballistic missiles into
Whoop, there goes Soleimani name again.
Assad base. There were a significant number of casualties. Thank God there were no deaths. But it's a prideful nation. It's part of the axis of resistance. It needs to demonstrate that it will resist. So certainly our force protection elements are in place, but I don't know. I would be very, very surprised if the Iranians don't attack either with their missiles, their militias, or through direct terrorist activities.
Anna Kasparin, your view of, well, the combined attacks, Israel and United States?
Well, I think Israel has been pushing for regime change in Iran. The claims that Iran was close to developing a nuclear weapon was false. Not only were they...
Whoa, she said it was false, guys. Y'all better listen. Yeah, they gonna have a great debate.
A year away, according to Netanyahu himself, in being able to develop a nuclear weapon. They didn't even have a mechanism in order to deliver said nuclear weapon. This has been all about engaging in a regime change war. That's what this is. Anyone who's pretending like this is about nuclear weapons is lying to you. Again, the United States is forced to fight another war on behalf of Israel. And I just want to ask Conricus a question real quick, because I'm seeing a lot of videos of Israelis leaving Israel to go home to the United States or to Greece or to other European countries. You guys got what you wanted. You guys got your war. Are you expecting American troops to fight this war and die on your behalf? Or are you going to bring the Israelis back, tell them to put their fatigues on and get ready for a ground invasion? Because if they want regime change, they're going to need a ground invasion, and Americans shouldn't be forced to do it.
I will let Jonathan Conricus respond. All I would say, in relation to your super confidence that Iran was not planning to weaponize its enriched uranium, what else could they possibly have been planning, given they took the enrichment process, according to the Independent Atomic Energy Authority, they took their enrichment of uranium from the 3.5% required for civilian usage to 60% in the last few years. There is no other reason you would do that if you weren't at the very least wanting people to believe.
So the old girl from the Young Turks ain't believing none of that. She said if you believe they were enriching uranium in order to make a nuclear bomb, you're crazy. That's what she said.
You were going to be weaponizing your uranium. Otherwise, why do it?
Well, I mean, they were not enriching uranium under the Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA, which unfortunately Trump took pressure from Netanyahu to pull out of in 2018, which essentially cleared the way for Iran to enrich uranium. Now, yes, they enriched up to 60%. You need 90% in order to have the material necessary to build a nuclear weapon. However, I think what Iran was doing, considering the fact that they're in a region of thugs in Israel who clearly have been announcing that they want regime change in Iran, they wanted a deterrent. I think that's what they were doing. And as this war in Gaza, this genocide in Gaza continues, I think they wanted some form of a deterrent, much like Israel has with their over 90 nuclear weapons that they...
This fast say she talking like she lived there. Let's go.
Don't acknowledge, of course. They're not part of the non-proliferation treaty, even though Iran was. Just really interesting comparisons there.
Okay, General Kimmel, I know you have to leave us. Jonathan Conricus, I will come to you in one moment, but I just want to ask the General to respond to that. Is there a naivety by many on the left, you think, about Iran's intentions with this enriched uranium? Because I oppose the Iraq war as a newspaper editor.
Can we get 30 more likes? Can we get the likes to 400, guys? We at 378. We got 987 people in the building. Man, please click those three dots, hit that thumbs up. It helps out the channel. And most definitely subscribe to the channel if you're new.
The UK very vociferously. It cost me my job in the end, actually. But I think I was vindicated over time by subsequent events. But here I just looked at that Independent Atomic Energy report and I thought, what else could they possibly be doing? If you enrich your uranium at that level and you have enough to build potentially 10 atomic bombs,
13 more
I don't know
likes,
what else
guys,
Iran wanted the world
likes.
to think it was doing. Enough about your red cooler, high cozy oxycodone.
About the Iranian nuke. Past 30. Listen, I think we need to recognize that for the past 30 years, Prime Minister Netanyahu has been warning the world about the Iranian nuclear threat. What is different about today? Listen, the excuses and the rationale that was used are the same ones that could have been used 20 years ago. The fact remains, October 7th changed everything. The axis of resistance and the ring of fire was a deterrent to Israel ever since it was established. Hundreds of thousands of weapons, hundreds of thousands of missiles and warheads were aimed at Israel and could, as was said at Thermopylae, could blot out the sky and overwhelm any kind of air defense system that the Israelis had put up. Since October 7th, the Israelis have methodically taken away and torn away and destroyed most of that capability. Deterrence was off. This is a once-in-a-lifetime generation for the Israelis to attack, and every Israeli pilot for the past 30 years has wanted to be the first one in the cockpit to end that nuclear program. The fact that the Ring of Fire was...
Well, you saying there's no ceasefire, but according to Trump and his team, there most definitely is. And in the next 24 hours, we will see a complete ceasefire. That's what they said. It's up to you whether you believe it or not, but that's what Trump and them said. They said that Trump negotiated and both parties agreed.
Destroyed, and it was now a manageable threat from Iran, no longer deterrence. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity, and Netanyahu took that opportunity.
Final question before I let you go.
But it wasn't Israeli pilots. It was American pilots. Let's be clear about that. American pilots did this incredibly risky mission. Luckily, none of them got hurt.
Jesse, you ain't sorry to tell me nothing. I'm telling you what Trump and them said. You should go tell them that it ain't happening. Don't tell me. Tell them. That's what they said. They said within 12 hours, both parties, they will continue to get their stuff off, and then within 24 hours, you know, the whole thing should stop. So give it 24 hours and then come back and tell me it didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? How you know? Do you live over there or something? Or you over there in Iran? Or you a part of what's going on? How do you know? What makes you so sure you know that it ain't happening? I'm sorry to tell you, that's what Trump and them said. Go take it up with them.
But this is going to start a full-blown war with Iran, a war that the United States should not be fighting on behalf of any foreign country, including Israel.
Okay.
It's unacceptable.
All right.
Unacceptable.
We don't actually.
How
we
many
don't know,
years do American
hang on.
taxpayers and our members of our military need to be slaves to the Israeli government? I need someone to answer that question.
Okay, listen, I know General
A genocidal regime.
Hang on, General Kelly does have to go. I just want to ask you before you go, just one last question. Would you, as a military commander, have been comfortable about what the IDF has been doing at the behest of the Israeli government in the last 3 months in Gaza?
Well, I'd rather answer the question directly of Gasparin. Look, as somebody who's worn a uniform for 30 years, the conditions that had been set by the Israeli Defense and the Israeli Air Forces and Mossad meant that this was not only the most lethal attack since Hiroshima, but it was also the safest attack. The fact remains, the IAF had wiped out the air defenses. Mossad had put a lot of pressure. This was the safest operation, not to include the Great Deception Plan, where President Trump used Winston Churchill's axiom that the truth is so important, it must be a bodyguard of lies. And I would tell you right now, there's not an American pilot that was worried about this attack and had anything but pride for this attack.
He said, well, they wasn't worried about it, man. They moved in and got out, and not one American was injured or harmed in the whole situation. Let's go.
Okay, and just finally, the answer to my question?
If it was about Gaza, again, I think that I certainly don't commend the killing of innocents and civilians. But you know that when the enemy wraps itself around civilian targets.
Hey, Vara, we will be respectful in the chat. Don't be cursing out any other people for their own opinions. You entitled to theirs. They are entitled to their opinions as well. You know, don't make me put you on a rocket ship, dog. Be respectful to everybody in the chat, and they'll be respectful to you.
Civilian facilities.
You support genocide.
That facility is now no longer. It is now a military target. I don't necessarily see at this point that it's genocide for the simple reason that the Gazans and Hamas have an opportunity to end that, and that's to return the hostages and end this carnage. In previous actual genocide,
that's a lie, and you know it. You know it. They're shooting and killing civilians at humanitarian.
All right, so hold on. You know, my girl Sincere say it's all a conversation until no one is talking anymore. Battles closes a lot of mouths because unalive men don't talk. Let's talk about it.
Aid hubs. Dozens of them on a daily basis. Literal children are getting shot in the face.
It is a good time.
It's a genocide. It's a genocide.
You are right. It is a good time for me to leave. Okay. I thought we were going to have a discussion,
See you later.
not propaganda.
I told y'all the Young Turk, that lady from the Young Turks, man, she don't be playing. I knew it was going to be a great debate. She ain't trying to hear none of that. She let them know exactly how she feel about all of it, whether it's unpopular or not.
Okay.
Thank you.
General Kimmett, I appreciate you joining us. Thank you very much. We're going to be joined on the panel now by Kaveh Afrasiabi, a former advisor to Iran's nuclear negotiating team who was arrested in the U.S.
Oh, he got an Iranian person up there, you know, a former advisor about the nuclear plant. Let's go.
Related to spying before being pardoned by Joe Biden. But before we speak to him, I want to talk to Jonathan Conricus. A lot has been said in the last few minutes. What's your response?
Well, hello everyone. I can, even though I've never met the person who is constantly interrupting others, I don't think we've ever even communicated
Oh,
on
I'm
it.
talking about old girl from the Young Turks. She says she constantly interrupting others.
But I can feel your frustration. No, don't interrupt me. I can feel your frustration. I can feel how sad you are. I can feel how difficult it is for you to see Israel teaching the Iranian regime a lesson and Israel winning on the battlefield. I can understand that it's frustrating for you. I can understand that you're having a tough time dealing with reality.
You have to actually
I can
address the
understand that
substance of
you're
my argument.
suffering
Why are
because
IDF
you
soldiers
seem as
shooting
if
and
you
killing
are
children at humanitarian aid hubs?
fixated on
You
Israel.
genocidal prick.
And frankly,
Can you answer that
really your
question?
talking points are tired.
The whole world
I'm not
sees
here
you
to
guys
answer
for what
your
you
questions,
are. Just keep
Mrs.
it real.
Interrupter. I'm not here to answer your questions.
fight your own damn
Last time I
wars.
checked, this wasn't your channel. This wasn't your channel, and you've
Biggest
done nothing
welfare
but
whores
interrupt
in the
and talk
world,
nonsense.
taking from the
You've only
American
been talking
people,
nonsense so
both
far,
in the
and I've been
form of
sitting here and
American
listening
lives and
quite
in the form of
politely
American
to your
taxpayer dollars.
nonsense, and
Pay
you
for
keep
your own
on
damn
screaming
weapons.
over
guys,
me
we need to
as if you're right.
individually
But you're
talking.
not.
I told y'all it was gonna be a great debate. Soon as I seen old girl from the Young Turks, I knew it was going down. Shout out to Brenda. Y'all continue to get those likes up, subscribe if you new. Yeah, man, they going at it. It's crazy.
There's no point.
I can't stand these people and their disgusting lies. As children are getting slaughtered
and then you
by
started
the
interrupting, and you're
daily
screaming.
at these
You're
humanitarian aid hubs.
impolite.
I can speak over
You're
you
not even
endlessly.
facts-based.
Anna, listen, we can't have a debate.
And it's not going to
We
work.
can't have a debate if you don't let Jonathan let Jonathan say what he wants to say, then you can respond.
Listen, Pierce.
The Young Turks is getting in there. I'm just saying, man. Yeah, she ain't playing. I'm just saying. I told y'all.
This isn't going to work. Clearly, you can see that she's here to instigate.
Let him talk, please.
She's here to instigate. She is here to instigate. She constantly interrupts. That is not a way to have a meaningful discussion. And if I'd ask you to kindly, put her in place so that at least I could say 2 or 3 sentences.
Put her in place.
That's the first thing. Now I can understand the frustration of so many people that are Israel haters disguising as liberals, disguising as humanitarians. I can see and feel, and I even have compassion for your feelings that you see the great empire that the Iranians built against us. It is being decimated piece by piece, and there is nothing you can do to stop it. And it must be frustrating. It must be frustrating to see Israel defend itself after a Hamas attack on October the 7th. And it must be frustrating to see Israel persisting and winning and defeating our enemies despite the efforts of the likes of you and many others who have teamed up against Israel. And I can understand the frustration, but guess what? It's not going to help. Your opinion isn't true. It is not reality-based. Just like you just said in the beginning that Israelis are fleeing. On the contrary, Israelis are lining up, and there's actually a national airlift to get home. There's an Israeli national airlift to get Israelis home from all over the world, from Greece and from Cyprus, so that they can come home to be with their families as Israel is being attacked.
Go back to Israel. Put your uniforms on.
All right, I'm now going to go. I'm going to bring in Dinesh here, and I would appreciate if everyone just let each other talk. Otherwise, the viewers can't hear a damn thing. Dinesh, thank you for your patience in waiting.
Order in the
so long
court. Order in the court.
First of all, what is your... I mean, look, there's a lot of speculation about what Donald Trump may do next. I happen to think that he is instinctively anti-war. I don't think there's any chance he wants to put any boots on the ground here. I think if he can make it one and done with the strikes that he ordered, I think he would be happy with that, as he was with the strikes against Syria, against Soleimani, against...
Old girl from Young Turks ain't trying to hear none of that.
Daddy, no, he's a guy who likes to go in, targeted, and out. I don't think he wants any kind of prolonged war. However, once you do something like Trump ordered at the weekend, it can be out of your hands. It really depends how Iran responds. What do you think?
I'm not picking any side. I'm just saying she ain't taking no flack. She most definitely dishing it out.
What's going to happen here?
I think that we are learning that Trump represents a repudiation of the Bush tradition, but he doesn't represent a repudiation of the Reagan tradition. Trump is quite willing to use force.
Yeah, she's from the Young
but
Turks.
He uses it discriminately, he uses it quickly and decisively. And Trump's own rhetoric very much supports this. I think that a lot of this anxiety is because of the bad lessons that came out of the Iraq war. But Iran is not Iraq, and Trump is not Bush. And the fictional weapons of mass destruction in Iraq are not the same as functioning nuclear facilities enriching uranium in Iran. So I think that it's important to look at this situation for what it is. Now, who can argue that the world is not better off when Iran doesn't have nuclear capacity? Whether there's a 50% chance that they were going to get there, a 70% chance, a 90% chance, it would be really good to have a 0% chance that they could get there at all.
She told him, go back to Iran, put on your boots, put on your suits, and go back over there. That's what she told him.
This is a fanatical militant regime. It is different than places like China and Russia in that it has always had an ideology of global involvement, global destruction, global terrorism, death to America. You don't have to seek for a motive here. They deliver it to you from the Iranian parliament on a pretty daily basis. So the United States has very definite interests here. The interest is not necessarily in regime change, although I, for one, would welcome it. Who can argue that Iran would not be better off than under the mullahs? And I think the big losers here are, in fact, Iran, Hamas, but also the global left. The global left has partnered in a way with these Hamas radicals. And so they are taking a tremendous beating here. All their idiotic campus protests are for naught. So this is why we're getting all this screaming and hysteria from Anna, because she realizes that not only is Iran going down, so is our own.
Here she go. Let's go, Anna.
Get slaughtered by a genocidal regime that we're unfortunately funding with our taxpayer dollars and with military weapons. That's what I don't like. Look at Conriquez. Look at how flippant he is when it comes to children getting killed. That's the kind of person you are, Conriquez.
This is most definitely for educational purposes.
Anna,
your personal assaults against me are not going to work.
It is a stain on America's reputation that we are literally funding modern-day Nazis today in their genocide against Palestinians.
Okay, Anna, you made your views about Jonathan clear.
You disgusting terrorist.
All right, can we try and keep things, please, less ad hominem? It's a bit pointless to screaming abuse at him. Let me bring in, if I may.
I mean, what do you call a regime that slaughters children?
You can have your arguments about it. And by the way, I share a lot of your arguments, but I think abusing another guest on a panel for as long as you've been doing is a bit pointless and self-defeating. I don't think viewers like it.
You don't think he deserves a little bit of abuse, considering what he's been in favor of?
Sure, and you've given him more than a little bit of abuse.
Actually, do not.
She is most definitely spewing, boy. I'm telling y'all, look at her. She is on his top. He don't know how to react. Oh my goodness.
Bring in,
and actually
let me bring in our other guest who hasn't said a word. Let me bring in Kaveh Afrasiabi. I mean, the big question I would have for Iran is, why were you enriching uranium to 60% if you had no intention of building nuclear weapons to a weaponized degree? It makes no sense.
Great question, Pierce.
Mr. Morgan, I'm very unhappy with how you mischaracterized me a minute ago. I was not charged as a spy for Iran. I was an international affairs consultant for Iran's mission for 13 years under UN norms and guidelines. And in the last 24 hours of the first Trump administration, he decided that I'm in violation of US law and brought these phony charges against me. What I was doing was in line with all the...
So this dude right here was involved in the Iranian nuclear sites. Basically, he was one of the people that was off inside of there, you know, and Trump and them charged him with violating international law, you know, and then I think they said that either Biden or Obama pardoned him. I think they said Biden.
The other consultants for other country missions, none of whom have registered as a foreign.
Okay, but everything I said was accurate. So let's get, look, everything I said was accurate. So
no, you are not accurate, and you're not putting yourself up in.
Well, you were accused of spying, and you weren't pardoned by Joe Biden.
I was not accused of being a spy, and I will bring a major defamation lawsuit on you.
Well, fine. Let me ask you two questions.
Oh, he said he's gonna bring a defamation lawsuit against Piers Morgan for calling him a spy. Let's talk about it.
Let me ask you two
Let me
questions.
answer your question.
Let me ask you two questions.
I will bring a major.
Let me ask you. Can you stop talking?
I am at Harvard for 30 years.
Let me.
I am in the Supreme Court against Harvard right now.
Fine.
And I will bring a major lawsuit.
I'm sure you will. I look forward to receiving it. Let me ask you two.
Let me answer your question.
Let me ask you two questions first.
Okay.
Is it true that you were accused of spying?
No, absolutely not.
You were?
No, I was not.
What were you accused of?
And I sued successfully the UPI.
I said, is it true you were accused of spying? Is it true you were accused of it?
No, absolutely not. I was accused of violating the Foreign Agent Registration Act, FARA, which requires registration, but not for people who work under the UN mandate.
Right. But you were arrested.
I was arrested for 24 hours.
Okay.
I denied the charges. I represented myself.
Fine. I didn't say you were found guilty.
No, you accused me of working as a spy for Iran, which is an outrageous lie.
I didn't accuse you of anything.
No, you said that I've been charged with being a spy.
No, I didn't. I said you were accused of it.
Yes, you did. You're a damn liar.
I did not say that.
Turn up.
He mad. I did not say that. And when you watch this back, you will regret your...
Oh, he mad. Look at his face, boy. He is upset. Don't call... You can call him whatever you want. Don't call him no spy, or he will sue you. That's what he said. That's what he said. That's what he said. Hey, he is furious. He said, don't say that. Let's go.
Outburst because you misheard me.
I will bring a major lawsuit on your head.
Major lawsuit.
Do what you like, mate. I couldn't give a damn.
You know, I'm a plaintiff against Harvard. I represented myself
Good for you.
for 30 years.
Do you want to do an interview or not?
I'm in the U.S. Supreme Court.
Do you want to do an interview about what's happening or not? Or do you want to keep chatting?
I will answer your question.
Well, answer it then.
First, what the U.S. did was a violation of the IAEA statute prohibiting arms strikes against nuclear facilities, which should have been immediately condemned by the governing board of the IAEA, just as the EU 10 days ago issued
that wasn't my question,
that
was it?
IAEA
That wasn't my question. You said you were going to answer my question. You're not answering my question. My question was why did Iran enrich its uranium stocks to 60%? That is my question.
Okay, I answer you by first of all pointing out that what you said that the IAEA says that there is no other purpose for it. It's a lie. There's no such a thing in IAEA report. The IAEA report of March 2025 says, I quote, since February 2025, Iran has been facilitating the implementation of a strengthened safeguard at its facilities. Now, is that the profile
and
of
then came another report which said that Iran was obfuscating and not allowing access to international supervisors.
Let me answer.
Let's not forget the last standing report of the Board of Governors of the
Atomic part of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. How about you shut up?
Oh, there she goes.
60% enrichment has medical uses.
Are you running the show, Mrs. Angry Street Lady?
This does not represent a violation of the IAEA safeguards. All the facilities that were bombed were under international safeguards. And it should have been condemned immediately because it's also a violation of the UN Charter because Iran has not threatened the US. US engaged in a unilateral act of militarism against Iran.
Your supreme leader has
Are we going to get to an answer of why the Iranian regime was enriching to military-grade uranium? Are we going to hear why, Mr. Negotiator? And again, I hold you in high respect because I think you
So I think this guy right here is Israel, and this guy right here is Iran. Let's go.
The people like you, I think you have done a tremendous outstanding job. A tremendous outstanding job. For 25 years, you have facilitated for the Iranian regime to develop nuclear weapons, and it is through the skill and rhetoric of people like you that this has gone on for so long. So, but can we get to the answer of why the Iranian regime is enriching?
And you think that it can come and dictate to a country?
Can we get to an answer of why your regime is enriching to military grade? Why it builds a heavily hardened facility underground, 80 meters underground. You don't do that if your intentions are peaceful, Mr. Negotiator. You don't do it if your intentions are peaceful. You have nothing to hide and you have no reason to build for law.
You are such a hypocrite. You think that Israel is exceptional, is a chosen.
Say you're a hypocrite. We got Israel and Iran both on the panel at the same time. Hey, man, they still at it. I guess it wasn't no ceasefire because they still firing over here. I'm just saying.
Last report of the Atomic Agency Board of Governors stated clearly Iran is in violation. Iran is not allowing international inspectors to come and see, and Iran has enough fissile material for 10 nuclear bombs. That was the smoking gun that eventually caused President Trump to understand the severity of the situation. Yes, and that was what tipped the scales.
You know, you just
that was what tipped the scales.
Let me ask you efforts. Look, people can't. If you all talk over each other, nobody can hear a word anybody says. Let me ask you, Mr.
Oh, he told him to shut up then.
Let me ask you this: do you deny, for the record, that Iran has sponsored terrorism through Hamas, the Houthis, and Hezbollah going back several decades?
I've been very critical of Iran's support for Hamas. I wrote an article right after October 17 USA Today denouncing Hamas's ISIS-type attack on innocent civilians. I've been very critical of Iran's obsession with Israel in various books, including Trump and Iran right behind me, which has been highly praised in Foreign Affairs, as well as many other articles. I have called on Iran to stop his
Julio, let's be respectful in the chat, my guy, or you will be deported. Have you ever been deported? Too late. You know what I'm saying? Hey, man, you got to be respectful in the chat. We don't got to have you over here. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. You know, let people say what they going to say. And you most definitely don't be disrespectful to them for voicing their opinion, or we will get you out of here.
Israel phobia, because it's not in the national interest of Iran to be so obsessed with Israel, which incidentally, in 1984, I've written a book on an Israeli operative, Amiram Nir, who was singularly responsible for shipping out missiles to Iran defending against Saddam Hussein. Iran should be thankful to Israel for the support that was given to it to safeguard it against Saddam.
You've now said something, if you don't mind me being, you've now said something genuinely interesting.
We most definitely welcome different opinions. But what I'm saying is, you know what I'm saying, keep your opinions respectful. Understand that nobody thinks the same. You know, there's people who are going to have different opinions than you. Most definitely be respectful to everybody in the chat, and they'll be respectful to you. But if you become disrespectful with your opinions, I will deport you without hesitation. That's what those rockets mean. We have more rockets than Elon Musk, and we got a mass deportation situation going on over here, and we deport more people than Trump. So be respectful in this chat, or we will get you up out of here.
Surprising and constructive to the debate, right? Which is, you've acknowledged that Iran should not have been sponsoring terrorism with groups that are wedded to eradicating Israel off the face of the earth. And that's been the problem.
Absolutely not.
But that has
and
been...
Iran should have never said Israel should be wiped off the map. Because it's contrary to Iran's national interest. The mullahs have done a lot of things wrong, and I'm on record,
Well, that's good to hear you say it.
Huh?
It's good to hear you say that.
No, but I cooperated selectively with Iran for the sake of a nuclear agreement, which was a win-win and non-proliferation net plus. And President Trump made a terrible mistake under Netanyahu's pressure to withdraw to set the stage for
the problem is, look, I've got to jump in because we're running out of time, but the problem is that the last report made it clear that the Iranian regime has been obfuscating and lying and hiding stuff and stopping them from doing their job. So you have a significantly enriched uranium program going up nearer and nearer to weapons grade, and then not allowing the inspectors to do their job. You put the two and two things together, and you get 4 if you add 2 and 2 together. Let me ask Dinesh.
You're wrong.
Let me ask Dinesh.
Wrong. You know
hang on. Okay. Dinesh, you wanted to say something quickly.
I wanted to make a point about the issue of who is responsible for what. Now, when regimes start wars, they are responsible for the fate of their own children. I mean, if I come and do a home invasion on you, right, and threaten your children, and you strike back, and then I go grab my own kids and stick them in front of me and say, don't shoot, because I'm holding my own kids. The truth of it is I am putting my kids in jeopardy, not you. You have every right to retaliate against me, and I am the one
civilians get killed, you better use the same standard, but you won't. You won't use the same standard.
I want to hold the panel here for 2 minutes. I want to just have a quick conversation with Ambassador John Bolton, the National Security Advisor to Donald Trump during his first term. Mr. Bolton, thank you for joining me. I realise you only have a few minutes here. Well, just Mr. Bolton, if you could just tell me.
He looked like one of those cartoon characters. Which cartoon character do he look like? This guy right here. He looked like somebody I done seen on a cartoon before. I don't remember which one of them it is, but he got an uncanny resemblance to a cartoon character. Who is it? Monopoly. Yep, you're exactly right. That's what it is. Let's talk about it. I don't think Mr. Burns. Yeah, most definitely look like the Monopoly man, though. Let's go.
What is your assessment of where we are right now? You have the Israeli strikes now, the American strikes. Many people fearing that Iran's going to react in a spectacular fashion by way of retaliation. Others think their capability to do that has been severely diminished. People fearing there may have to be a ground invasion and so on. Where do you think we really are here?
Well, I think we made a good first start in destroying the Iranian nuclear weapons.
Yep, that's right, too. Charlie's grandpa from Willy Wonka. Let's talk about it. You right about that, too. Somebody said Albert Einstein a little bit. Yeah, but I'm going with Charlie from Willy Wonka, his grandpa, and most definitely a Monopoly man. Let's go.
Program and its ballistic missile program. I wish the U.S. and Israel had gone in together much earlier, but we are where we are. The president finally made the right decision. Now's the time to finish the job, and finishing the job to me means overthrowing the Ayatollahs. There's not going to be peace and security in the Middle East while this regime is in power. President, I don't think is there yet, although he's beginning to signal maybe he is. Doesn't require boots on the ground. There are lots of ways to get to regime change. The population is extraordinarily dissatisfied with the Ayatollahs, and I think you could see fragmentation at the top. That kind of instability is what you need to bring the regime down.
But isn't the lesson we've learned from Iraq and Afghanistan, wherever we've tried to effect regime changes, it tends not to work. And in fact, the most effective way is to allow the people of a country, as we saw with Syria last December, actually doing the regime change themselves. Isn't that I think actually that's what Donald Trump was.
Oh, wow. Delala says Trump snatched this guy's here, his security. He took the security clearance away. Wow.
Indicating in his tweet,
well, security
I think that he was indicating a regime change coming from within, from the dissatisfied people of Iran, as you rightly put it. Not that there should be American interference facilitating any kind of regime change.
Well, there are two aspects to this. First is the removal of the existing authoritarian regime, and second is the creation of the substitute. I think we did the right thing in removing the Taliban and the right thing in removing Saddam Hussein. And in Syria, the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham group didn't prevail over Assad without extraordinary Turkish help. So that's how it goes. Now the question is, how do the people of the country affected establish their own regime? And it clearly is the case that they should be primarily responsible. I said back at the time of the overthrow of Saddam Hussein that the U.S. role should be to hold the ring around the outside, prevent the Iranians from interfering, and basically say to the people of Iraq, here's a copy of the Federalist Papers. This may be helpful to you. Why don't you form your own government? You don't enhance political maturation by making decisions for other people. You enhance political maturation by making them make decisions for themselves, including mistakes from which they learn.
Donald Trump is making slightly ambiguous statements at the moment. Would you want him to be clearer about his intentions, or is this all part of him not letting the other side know what he really wants to do?
Well, I don't think he knows what he really wants to do. I think he's just going around the circle now to see what he can come up with. But as others have observed, one very important change that I think he's making is yesterday the vice president said, we do not want regime change in Iran. That is absolutely wrong. We should want regime change. How much we do is a different story.
They said we should want regime. Hey, man, that's crazy. Let's go, Sincere. Sincere say facts.
Story. And I think Trump obviously is not going to contemplate putting troops in. But I want to say again, there are a lot of ways to achieve regime change. None of them.
I don't know. Biggest they Putin the other day said that if America interfered, that they would get involved. But with the ceasefire going on, if it's real, there's no reason for China or Russia to get involved because there's basically not a battle anymore. We'll have to see.
Boots on the ground necessarily. This is a different context. You have a very educated population in Iraq. The young people, 60%. Are under 30. They know they could have a different life. They can see it across the Gulf in Dubai and Abu Dhabi and Doha. I think things would move in a very positive direction without particularly significant U.S. involvement.
Ambassador Bolton, I appreciate you joining me. Thank you very much. I know you've got a busy day. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Anna Kasparian, I mean, here's my sort of issue, I guess, with a lot of people on the left in relation to this story, is that you end up sounding like you're siding. Hang on 1 second, please. Please allow me to talk to different members of the panel. Is it that on the left you end up sounding like you're, shilling for?
Now let me tell y'all this, as a panel holder myself, on my other channel, let me let y'all know that it is very hard to control everybody when they be on that panel. When people get to talking, they don't like to stop. For real, man. Everyone else, y'all have a good night. Okay, Delilah, we'll holler at you. Shout out to you. We'll see you tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to you. But anyway, it is very hard to keep control when you have a lot of people on the panel, man. Sometimes stuff get by you. Trust me, I know.
Regime. The Iranian regime oppresses women.
Well,
hang on. Let me hang on. Is it they oppress women?
I know what you're going to say. I know. I hate the regime in Iran.
Right.
I hate the regime.
So why wouldn't you want it changing?
I hate the mullahs. There are Armenians living in Iran right now who hate the mullahs. Okay, but regime change should not be spurred by the United States and Israel, which wants to install a puppet government on their behalf. And by the way, the Iranians know that. They know that. Polling indicates the vast majority of them want regime change. They don't want it to be done by Israel. You have to be clear about that because I think there's an intentional misframing or false framing of what's happening in Iran right now and what the population actually wants. Now, with that out of the way, my issue, Pierce, is that the United States has been expending its resources and has been essentially sending...
Good Lord, it's done hit 666. Somebody leave. Okay, there, it changed, Lord.
Its soldiers to die in wars on behalf of Israel, a country that goaded us into invading Iraq on a false pretense of weapons of mass destruction. 4,000 of our soldiers died in Iraq. You didn't send a single IDF soldier. Not one IDF soldier was sent to Iraq. Our soldiers died on your behalf, Conriquez, on your country's behalf. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. You guys are committing a genocide right now, yet you're a nuclear power that's not in the non-proliferation agreement. Why? Why is that? How come you guys get to play by completely different rules? You're genocidal. You're disgusting. The world sees you guys for what you are. You are the people of Israel. Hate the government of Israel. You're a genocidal government. You make me sick.
So deep.
You make me sick.
Let him
The
answer.
international community looks at your government and gets sick even thinking about it.
We're gonna have to kick her off the panel because when she gets started, she don't know how to stop. Lord, have mercy.
Know that he makes you sick,
maybe,
but let him answer.
Yourself, for God's sake, we're trying to have a conversation here,
The
and
history
I'm trying
books
to
will write
answer
about
what you're
your
saying,
government
but you're
the
not
way
even
that Americans read about the
acknowledging me
Nazis
as
today.
a
Trust
person.
me.
Instead of
Modern
just
day
screaming
Nazis.
at me and looking
Modern
like a
day
lunatic
Nazis.
who just keeps on screaming at
Right.
other people, could
This
you
is
for a
for
second
educational
allow me
purposes
to
All
say
those
two
children who are now
sentences?
orphaned.
No,
All
you
those
don't
children
speak on
who were
behalf of
born
anybody
in
but
Gaza
yourself.
in an
You weren't
open-air
elected.
prison
You don't
and had to
represent
die
any.
Oh, Lord, calm down, woman.
Represent
military.
anybody. You've
Yeah.
never stood for anything. You've
Genocidal.
never fought for anything. You're a talk show
Genocidal.
host, and you don't represent anybody.
international
And the fact
community
that
sees
you
you for
think
what
that
you
it's
are.
a
She told him he told her she was a talk show host and she don't know anything. Let's talk about it.
effective to accuse me of all kinds of nonsense, and you think that that will rattle me? I'm sorry to disappoint you.
everyone knows.
Many and better
And you know
people
too.
before you have tried, and they have all
Right.
failed. But let me tell you something. Your hatred
let me say
is
it in
so
a way that
showing.
you'll understand.
Your
The
hatred of
international community
Israel
looks
is
at people like
blinding
you and they say
You're not able to
terrorists, okay?
distinguish
That's what they
between
see.
different
Terrorists.
situations,
You're
and
a
you find
terrorist.
yourself supporting a genocidal
Endless
regime
numbers
just
of
out
children
of your burning
slaughtered
hatred
at the
towards
hands of the
Israel.
IDF and
And
the
I
Israeli
think that
government.
is so compelling for people to see
I
how
hate
you
the government of
behave.
Israel.
Okay, don't all start talking,
I
otherwise I'm
despise
going to
the
literally
government
give
of
up.
Israel.
All right, let me
Despise
just
it.
look.
It's complete chaos, guys. They've lost it.
Let me
And
go.
I feel bad for the people of
Let
Israel who are
let
now
me
under
go
threat
back, if
because
I
of the
may, to
belligerence of your
Kaveh.
government.
Let me ask
and
Kaveh this
military.
question. Kaveh, in an ideal world, Kaveh, do you think it's right, as John Bolton said, that the young
This
population...
isn't fair. She's been screaming over me the entire conversation. I've said one sentence.
Get out there then, Israel.
And I've been sitting here for 45 minutes.
I agree.
I would really like to say one sentence without
Keep
her
crying about
screaming
it.
like some crazy person.
She told him to keep crying about it.
Well, then
totally.
Let's see if she'll let
totally
you.
consumed by her
You guys
hatred.
are such victims.
Right. So
Oh.
I would like to say
Yeah.
one thing.
The
And
young-
please,
the young woman
could you,
speaking
you know,
over me.
contain
Yeah.
yourself
Go ahead,
for
please.
20 seconds? Could you contain yourself for 20 seconds, please?
ahead.
Like you've been screaming and ranting all over this debate, and it's not meaningful. People don't hear
I
what you
can't- I
say.
have
They
a
don't hear
visceral
me.
reaction to
Nobody
people
makes
like
sense
you.
of it.
Sorry.
So please
let him talk.
do me a favor, and allow me at least to say 2 sentences. The Iranian regime now is struggling like any dictatorship with a new and dynamic situation. They're not used to not being in the driving seat. They're not used to not dictating in events. And for the first time in 25 years, Israel is taking the initiative. And Israel has now peeled back the layers of the ring of fire around Israel. And Israel is, yes, and I can say this not officially as a spokesperson, but this is what I understand. Israel definitely is trying to bring about regime change in Iran. Why? Because it would be better for the entire region, for the Iranian people, and definitely for Israel.
But
It
many
would open
people,
the path to prosperity.
all right, but Jonathan, many people
May-
also,
may I answer that,
hang
please?
on. Many people, Jonathan, also think there
Greater
should be.
Israel
Hang
Project,
on!
look into it. That's
For
what this is
goodness
about.
sake. Many people, Jonathan, also think
She
there should be
laughing too.
regime
She know
change
what she doing.
in Israel because of what it's been doing in Gaza. So there's a lot of talk
Well,
of
that's
regime
called
change
elections,
generally.
Piers.
Yeah, well, okay, but
Yeah, but that's called elections.
Sure.
And I have many friends. I have friends and family who feel the same way, and I have others who feel differently. And luckily for Israel, luckily for us who live here, and luckily for the 2 million Arabs who live in Israel, Israel is a democracy, and we get to vote, and we get to vote what we like. Currently, we have a government who I think is definitely should be criticized for many things and how it has managed those situations since October 7. But I think the government and the Prime Minister has done a very brave and
That's a
good thing
long
for the
rant.
future of the region in attacking Iran.
Okay, let me give the final word to our Iranian guest. Over to you, Kaveh, for your final word here.
Well, Mr. Morgan, it is abundantly clear that 2 nuclear-armed states are ganging up on another state, the regional rival, using a lame excuse of proliferation in order to cause regime change, partly because Iran is part of a new multipolar world, member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, part of the BRICS nation, and the United States has been seeking a rollback of the historic Iranian Revolution for 46 years, and now are seizing on this opportunity in a very systematic fashion, using their mouthpieces such as your guests here, in order to provide the stage setting for this rollback strategy. And all these spinners like the warmonger, who Mr. Trump himself labeled as a warmonger, who didn't like a war that, didn't start in the world, is not cheering Mr. Trump because Mr. Trump is implementing his script for regime change in Iran. This is a travesty of international law, a violation of the UN Charter. Most of the world leaders have condemned it. And Iran, by the way, has paralyzed really.
Actually, I don't think that's true.
Israel's economy is paralyzed.
They haven't condemned
I don't think it's true. I don't think it's true that most world leaders have condemned it at all.
Financial hemorrhage, and hundreds of Iranian missiles have landed in Israel and have penetrated the paper dome, which you call Iron Dome. And you talk about regime change. Go look at the Look at the destructions in Tel Aviv that's making Tel Aviv into another Gaza.
Let's talk again in 6 months and let's hear what you say then. Let's talk again in 6 months.
The tiny, inconsequential Israel, the tiny, inconsequential.
Get in there,
honestly, I am completely and utterly.
You are hallucinating.
Okay, I tell you what, I'm hallucinating. I'm hallucinating.
Just the other day,
I am hallucinating. Okay.
The only regime
yes,
change
I know.
will be the genocidal
okay.
Netanyahu. That's the only regime.
Okay, I am hallucinating. I'm exhausted. I'm bringing it to an end. Thank you all very much.
Balling.
Well, joining me now is former Israeli Prime Minister and former IDF Chief of Staff.
He got mad. He had to get them all up out of there. He said, I'm in it. Thanks to you all. He had to get everybody out of there. They most definitely had their own Pete. Hey, man, great debate. You know what I'm saying? They wouldn't even let him talk. I'm just saying.
Barak, Israel's former Prime Minister, Defense Minister, and IDF Chief of Staff. Mr. Barak, thank you very much indeed for joining me again on Uncensored. We're going to talk about Gaza in a moment. But first of all, what was your reaction when you heard that Israel had initially launched an attack on Iran? Because that must have been something that you had contemplated yourself when you were Prime Minister.
First of all, I was not surprised, of course, of in the air for a long time, but the results of the first day and first 8 days is extremely impressive. The far-sighted planning, the accurate preparation, the resolute execution, everything that was lack in October 7 was there, and it had a very good impact on the deterrence of Israel, on the respect to it among neighbors and in the world, even the self-confidence of the public in the capabilities of its own defense forces and of the leadership. So it's basically positive, as long as we assume, and I believe, and...
Man, what's wrong with your microphone? You sound crazy. But either way, this guy's from Israel, guys. He's talking about the situation.
And hope that the information provided is accurate, namely that there was a compelling need to do it, namely that there was a genuine intelligence material proving that Iranians trying or
I can barely understand what he's saying. I might need to turn the captions on.
The rush toward weaponization of their military nuclear program. I think that the last 48 hours made the world and the region in even better situation since America intervened in a concrete and focused target. I think that is the important signal even to Putin in the Kremlin regarding to whatever, Moldova or the Latvians and even Xi in Beijing about the Senkaku Island or Taiwan. It's a good message that America...
I swear to God, without the captions, I wouldn't know what he was saying. You know what I'm saying? I did that for y'all as well as myself. Because there's something wrong with his speech or something. I don't know, man. You know what I'm saying? English is not his native tongue.
Cannot just talk hectically and in a non-consistent manner, but also order action.
Yeah, and I think what you touched on there is very significant, that it really comes down, I guess, to whether people believe that Iran was planning to weaponize its enriched uranium. To which I've said to people, well, if it wasn't, then why would it need to take the enrichment of its uranium stocks from 3.5% to 60%? There's only one reason that you would need to do that, and that is if you're preparing to weaponize it, isn't it?
Look, there is no doubt that Iran intends to reach nuclear military capability. They're trying to walk in the footsteps.
All right, so he's from Israel, and he's saying there's no doubt that Iran planned to enrich what they had to make a bomb. Okay.
Of North Korea, in a way, kind of Pakistan, not to repeat the mistakes of Gaddafi capitulating after Lockerbie or the black South Africa capitulating their aspiration during the change of regime and not risking a surgical attack like Israel's kind of launch on Saddam in 81, and later on, a generation later on Assad Jr. in 2007. So basically, they are trying to follow in the footsteps of North Korea and they are doing it very systematically and bypassing and tweaking. But having said that, they were at
Joe Black, he chewing on something.
2018, when Trump went out of the JCPOA under encouragement from Netanyahu, they were 18 months afar from a state threshold nuclear state. As a result of American withdrawing from the agreement, there are now 18 days, or probably minus 18 days. They are basically there, and there is a major problem here. We are now under the exercise of the obliteration of Fordo and Natanz. That's not accurate. If you talk tomorrow to professionals, they will tell you that neither Israel cannot delay their coming into nuclear weapon or nuclear demonstration somewhere in the desert of their capacity.
And we have 40 people in the building that ain't hit that like button, man. Please double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device, or click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up, and most definitely subscribe to the channel if you're new.
Nuclear reaction. We cannot delay them by more than several weeks. And the Americans cannot delay them by more than several months because they have the material, they have the know-how, they have the scientists in spite of elimination of 14 of them. Iran is scientific power.
Real say he sound like he chewing on his tongue. Let's talk about it.
Physics for my personal background, and the amount of publication in physics, including nuclear physics, by Iranian scientists is amazing, much bigger than the Israeli. I hope not more than the UK contributes. So I don't think that they have any physical obstacle. I hope that Fordo was destroyed more than we can see from the satellite. For sure, Natanz suffered the major damage, but that's not the case. You can enrich the 450 kilograms of enriched uranium to 60%, to do it to 90 plus, which is the weapon grade.
We 17 likes away from 500. Can we get 500 on the like, guys? Continue to double tap that screen or click those 3 dots. Hit that thumbs up, man. It helps out the channel. Can we get 500 on the like? Shout out to everybody in the building.
In 2 weeks, having hundreds advanced centrifuge in some garage or in some deserted mine somewhere in Iran. We should not pretend to know everything about Iranians. They are too sophisticated for this. I accurately, vividly remember the running after the North Korean or the Pakistani, or even those who remember running after Israel in the 60s by the Kennedy administration. In retrospect, you always find that the country was determined to reach nuclear capability.
Pierce up there trying to act like he know what he's saying. Man, Pierce, you know you don't understand what he's saying either. None of us do. If it wasn't for the captions down here, I promise I'd have been there, stopped the video and left already.
Itself always ahead of the best estimates of foreign intelligence system. So we have to be careful. I see 4 scenarios now. One, Trump joined hands with Israel with the denied objective of toppling the regime. It's probably a good wish for Israelis, but I don't believe that is there. I think that Trump is for the one shot and hopefully not being re-attacked by Iranian responded in Qatar or in Bahrain. There are huge American bases there. The second possibility is that a weakened and in a way more vulnerable, somewhat even humiliated, which is not helpful in this situation, Iran will come to the negotiation table and hopefully an agreement which is somewhat better in certain aspects from the JCPOA might be achieved. Once again, we have to remember that in the previous one, they were held 18 months from being a threshold. Now, in order to do this, you have to do them to agree to probably take all this enriched uranium to Russia under commitment that they will not give them back unless certain terms had been achieved or conditions came to materialize. So that's the other.
They say this dude right here is gaslight.
for me. It's a good possibility for both Israel and the region. The third one is that we will end up in attrition war between Israel and Iran. Our Air Force against their missiles. Americans might help us with munitions for the jets, and probably some have.
David said, man, this guy is crazy.
In defense with their anti-missile, the risk is that our interceptors, and including the Americans, will dilute.
We need 15 more likes, guys, to hit 500. If you're in the building and ain't hit that like button, click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up if you don't mind. 15 more likes, we'll be at 500.
Before the Iranian missile, they still have 2,000. There is a shortage of launchers because we hit the launcher back. Bearing in mind the new access started from Russia, Iran, North Korea, China, you might think carefully. Iran sent thousands of missiles, short range, for Russia in order to be used against Kiev. But it's not inconceivable that Iran will draw missiles from North Korea, probably with launchers, probably with some crews. They sent soldiers to Lugansk and Donetsk, so they can send launchers to Tehran, or from Pakistan, or even from China. So it's a very bad option for Israel. I hope also for, I think also for Iran, but I cannot be sure. The last and the worst possibility is that the Iranian conclusion will be that the only reason that the Israeli Air Force is flying over Tehran so freely is that they did not make the decision to turn into nuclear, throw the handcuffing of the NPT and turn nuclear several years ago. And they might reach the conclusion or the argument that they were attacked by Israel, which is, according to foreign sources, a nuclear power, backed by a well-known nuclear superpower, and they have no choice but to turn power themselves. Under this scenario, we might find themselves trying forcefully and justifiably to delay the Iranian coming to nuclear capability. We might end up under certain circumstances.
Pierce said, man, take me off the screen, put him on the big screen. I don't know what he's saying. I don't want him to know I just walked away.
Advancing or accelerating it.
That's a fascinating summary of all the potential outcomes. I really appreciate the detail.
Yeah, right, Pierce. You didn't even understand what he said. You just waited on him to get through talking.
You showed there. Just before we finish, I want to ask you about...
Yes, I was afraid that you won't understand your question, so I tried to answer in advance.
No, I thought you painted...
Speak English slower.
Yeah, I will. You painted a very good picture of all the...
Well, repeat it then, Pierce. If you understood without captions, repeat what he just said so we can understand.
Potential outcomes, and I appreciate that. I just want to, before we finish, ask you about Gaza. It seems to me that Israel has been very strategic and precise and targeted in the way that it went after Hezbollah. It's been very strategic and precise and targeted in the way it's attacked Iran so far. And yet in Gaza, it's been completely different. It's been a strategy of complete destruction, huge civilian death, a blockade, which many viewed as criminal starvation, consistent bombardment, and now people like the finance minister Smotrich brazenly talking openly about cleansing Gaza of all Palestinians, which many would see as illegal ethnic cleansing. Do you believe that Israel's government is now perpetrating war crimes in Gaza?
I hope and believe it doesn't perpetrate kind of crimes against whatever military war crimes and so on. I hope that's the case. Only a detailed investigation will find it. But I want to clarify the situation. October 7th created a compelling imperative for Israel to make sure that Hamas will never reign over the Gaza Strip and being capable of threatening Israel from there. The war is the result of it, but Having said that, the real challenge was to understand, so how to do it. There is a compelling paper how to implement it. And here it's somehow it turned more complicated because Netanyahu ignored the very...
We are 9 likes away from 500, guys. Continue to double tap that screen. If you're on a mobile device, or click those 3 dots, hit the thumbs up. Wow. Shout out to everybody in the building.
4 maxims that were the foundation for our security perspective from day one, from Ben-Gurion. If we have to have a war, have it very short on the enemy's territory, to very aggressive, and in order to end it as close as possible to beginning when the international legitimacy is still with us, always do it with a superpower on your side and never lose grip of the moral high ground. We are not a superpower. We are a tiny country, isolated, a tough neighborhood. It's not the Scandinavia. We would probably have to prefer to be born in Scandinavia, but we are there. That's our homeland. So we have to be attended to all these elements. Netanyahu in Gaza seemed to forget all these elements and ignore the basic reality that the only way to defeat Hamas and reach this operation is by replacing Hamas by another legitimate power, legitimate in the eyes of international law, international community, the neighboring peaceful or Abrahamic countries, and even the Palestinians themselves. So it cannot be a Swedish or British entity. It should be Palestinian entity. So the plan was on the table from day one. The President Biden even wrote it in an article to Washington Post where he felt that he is failing to convince Netanyahu. It means calling upon inter-Arab force to enter into Gaza backed by majority resolution of the Arab League, and if necessary also UN Security Council resolution. Creating finance will come from UAE and Saudi Arabia. It needs a lot of money. A government of technocrats will be established. A bureaucracy of Palestinians being built. It needs some 50,000 people to run 2.2 million. And gradually a new security force will be built with the training of the inter-Arab force, which be Egyptian, Jordanians, Emiratis, and under American supervision. The only 2 conditions that Israel should put, number 1, not a single individual who was a part of the armed branch of Hamas, not just the fighter or the launchers of rockets, the guy in the lab or the spokesman. Not a single individual who was part of it or part of the massacre of October 7th can be a member of any organs of this new entity. Number 2, the Israeli military will pull out at first to the perimeter, about half a mile, let's say, all along the strip, and will not pull fully to the border before pre-agreed set of milestones toward the secure and stable situation had been achieved. That was the plan. It was very easy a year and a half ago because it would appear as safe.
Thank God for captions, because my God.
Saving Gaza from terrible destruction.
Right.
It's much more sensitive right now because now it might appear as saving Israel from sinking in the mud in Gaza. So it's more complicated, but my observation is that Netanyahu now, based on the achievements in Iran, should immediately turn to Trump and say, let's activate this solution now. Immediately bring all the hostages, launch this resolution and activation, and let us join the Trump vision of a new Middle East normalization with Saudi Arabia, even participating in a trade corridor from India to the Gulf, to Israel, to Europe. And this is a great opportunity. A question which casts some shadow about the consideration of our government with regard to Iran is that, according to Netanyahu himself, it started to plan this operation immediately after the result with Hezbollah, as you mentioned, even with Syria indirectly. Situation made it an opportunity to act. But to think that our cabinet sat down in November, and later on he said the date was in April, and for some reason delayed to mid-June. All along all these months, it didn't came to their mind that before you open a new war against Iran out of any other place, you don't end the war in Gaza, which is...
One of the haters took their like back. You can only double tap the screen once. You know what I'm saying? It ain't gonna let you do it multiple times. It's for the new people coming in. We need 2 more likes to hit 500, guys. If you haven't hit that like button, click those 3 dots, hit the thumbs up. It most definitely helps out the channel, and most definitely subscribe if you're new. We're talking about Israel and Iran, guys, and America's involvement.
At your fingertips.
It's crazy.
That's very disturbing.
It's crazy. I've got to leave it there, but I really appreciate it, Ehud Barak. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Turning to Israel now, and Amichai Chikli is Minister.
Thank you very much for joining us. Maybe this guy speak clear. He looked like he got is that an Israel flag back there? That's what it looked like. Let's go.
For Diaspora Affairs and Combating Anti-Semitism in the Netanyahu government, who used to describe my criticism of the suffering in Gaza as a troubling descent into overt anti-Semitism. Well, welcome to you, Minister. Where have I been anti-Semitic?
Well, I think that during the beginning of the war, you were very clear on the right of Israel to defend itself after the
he sound better than the other dude.
assault of October 7th. But since then, by the way, you choose to bring people like Candace Owens, which is a Holocaust denier, on your show, to bring...
Whoa, he said Candace Owens. Boy, he getting that Candace Owens. Let's go. I heard that loud and clear. You bring people like Candace Owens on your show. Oh, yeah, a lot of people don't like her. I guess she not liked all over the world. Let's continue.
And Balzerian, I think that giving the stage for conspiracy theorists, Holocaust deniers such as Owens, such as Evans, Balzerian, these kind of people, to give them your platform, I think you have responsibility. And this is a wrong decision.
I ain't say nothing bad about Candace, besides a lot of people don't like her. That's all I said, and that's a fact. It's a lot of people don't like Candace. There's some that like her, but it's a lot of people that don't.
People such as Stage, and therefore I think, I'm not saying that you're anti-Semitic necessarily.
Well, you did say that.
But I do think that these are wrong decisions.
You did say that.
No, I didn't say that.
And I'm just curious where you think... I'm curious
where...
What's interesting is the allegations that I'm anti-Semitic only began when I decided to start being more strident in my criticism of what your government is doing in Gaza, which, by the way, is a view... Well, hang on. I'll finish my question.
Uh-oh, look like Chris got some smoke up there, you know what I'm saying? Look like Chris got some smoke.
Which is a criticism shared by many of Israel's allies, by at least 2 of your former prime ministers now. So I'm not alone in that criticism. Many people think what you've been doing in Gaza in the last few months constitutes war crimes. And we've seen from one of your colleagues, the finance minister Smotrich, that the big plan, as far as he's concerned, is not actually getting hostages back or defeating Hamas, but clearing all Palestinians out of Gaza. Now, I'm just curious why me criticizing your government for things like that, and for what people like Smotrich are saying, constitutes anti-Semitism.
No. So let me be very accurate. As I mentioned before, I never said that you are anti-Semitic.
Yeah, you did.
I did say
you did. You applied it, and I was immediately bombarded on X and other social media platforms. I can tell you, thousands of people calling me anti-Semitic and a Jew hater because you decided to fuel that sentiment. Well, you did.
Look, whether you are or you're not, that's that's
whether I am. When have I ever been anti-Semitic?
Look, I think...
Why don't you tell me? When have I been anti-Semitic? As you know, I've had people on from both sides of this war for the entire time, many of whom have expressed very controversial views. And when they have, be it Candace Owens, Dan Bilzerian, people on the pro-Palestinian side, people on the pro-Israeli side, on the more extremist side, I've held them all to account. I've questioned every time I've heard something I don't like. What I want to know from you is, why do you think as an Israeli minister, you can fuel people on social media viewing me as an anti-Semitic person or somebody who hates Jews? I'm really curious about that. Is it because I dare to criticize what the Israeli government is now doing in Gaza?
I think there is no problem. There is no problem with criticizing the government of Israel. There is no problem with criticizing what's happening in...
Absolutely, Vaughn. He brought him on his show just to get at him. Pierce brought him on just to get at him. It's apparent. Yeah, Pierce most definitely didn't like that he called him anti-Semitic. You know what I'm saying? He didn't like that. And he wanted to tell him to his face. Let's go.
Gaza. You can criticize whatever you want. But the fact is that your platform became recently the main platform for Holocaust deniers.
Absolute
the main
nonsense.
platform
Absolute,
for
categorical, weapons-grade nonsense.
Dan Bilzerian is a
Holocaust means you've never
denier.
watched it.
Candace Owens, this week she said that Mengele never made these experiments, these horrific experiments in Auschwitz. Spreading conspiracy theories. So I think you have responsibility, and you can be much more, much more fair, and to bring.
So you don't think I've been fair to Israel
to discuss these issues?
So in the last 18 months, you don't think I've. Just to be clear, you don't think I've been fair to Israel since this war started?
Look, I said at the beginning, I thought you were fair regarding Iran. I thought you were fair regarding. Let's take an example. Your tweet about the hospitals, okay? That you shared the Fox News man who said that we need to protect hospitals in Gaza and in Israel after a ballistic missile from Iran landed at the heart of an hospitals. Yeah. Okay. So I'm saying you never mentioned that these hospitals in Gaza, and let me give you some examples. Shifa hospitals were the main headquarters of Hamas.
How many of the hospitals that you've destroyed were Hamas run? How many? Give me a number. Give me a number.
I'm giving you a few examples.
No, don't give me a few.
Shifa hospitals.
Don't give me a few, because more than half of all the hospitals in Gaza have been destroyed. Many others are almost irreparably damaged. How many of those, in your estimation, as a government minister,
in order that we can have a fair interview, you need to...
How many of those were Hamas run? Give me a number.
I'm giving you a number, and I'm giving you a few examples. Shifa Hospital, which is the main hospital, by the way, is still functioning, despite the fact that it was a terror base. And when we raided the hospitals, 200 terrorists were arrested in Shifa Hospital. In Kamel Adwan hospitals in Jabalia, 240 terrorists were arrested in the hospitals.
So they're all terrorist
camps? In the European hospital.
Just to be clear, are they all terrorist camps?
Most of the hospitals in northern Gaza,
so all the hospitals in Gaza are terror camps. So where do people go to get treated?
By Hamas.
If they're all terror camps, where do they get treated?
Let's go, Sabrina.
Were used by Hamas.
Israel. Pierce really ain't even letting the dude talk. Pierce just on his top. Shout out to JoJo for that gift.
Didn't try to destroy the hospitals. On the contrary, she sent troops.
Pierce acting like Anna from the Young Turks. He can't let him finish. He keep on cutting him off.
Infantry to aid these hospitals.
So how did half of the hospitals get destroyed?
Cases, during the clashes with the terrorists, obviously, and also with the European hospitals, we needed to close the entrance.
Yeah, I think to Pierce saying this guy over here is most definitely a op.
Bunker of Muhammad Sinawar,
and out of interest,
Hamas,
why should I?
Who was hiding beneath the hospital?
How can I believe
and the
you?
fact is,
well, hang on, Minister. Hang on, Minister.
Okay,
listen, you're doing what many of the ministers have been doing in recent months. You basically cast doubt over everything which reflects negatively on the Israeli government war strategy, to which I say there is one very simple way that you can get independent verification of all the things you're saying, that all the hospitals were Hamas terror camps, that every story you read of is IDF making mistakes, killing people when they shouldn't have done, and the rest of it. All of that, apparently, these are all just terrible mistakes, right? Why don't you let the international journalists from the outside come in and do their jobs. Then they can verify everything you're saying. There's a reason that the Israeli government continues to refuse to let journalists into Gaza. It's not for their safety. You don't care about the safety of journalists because nearly 200 Palestinian journalists have been killed. I know what you're going to say. They're all Hamas. Okay, that's fine. Another of the claims that can't be verified because you won't let independent journalists into verify.
Unfortunately, many of these journalists were Hamas activists. Some of them also proudly.
How many?
Many of them, dozens.
How many?
Dozens of them.
So out of the nearly 200, how many were Hamas?
Dozens.
Why wouldn't it be, Alex? Why wouldn't it be? And why would you come in here and ask that? Don't get deported, dog. Why would you come in talking about is this live? Why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't it be, Alex? Why wouldn't it?
Well, how many were
Dozens
Hamas?
of them. Dozens of them were part of Hamas.
Okay.
Many of them were Hamas.
Right.
Many of them were
you
Hamas.
see what you're doing
Some
again.
of them
You see what you're doing again, right?
Abdallah al-Jamal,
You're implying they're
Ismail
all
Ego,
Hamas.
these people came.
All the hospitals are Hamas. All the journalists are Hamas. Everything's Hamas. Every death that happens is Hamas's fault. Every child that's starved is Hamas's fault. Everyone who is shot in the queues for food that we've seen in the last few weeks, which is shocking to observe, every one of those is Hamas's fault. Everything is Hamas's fault. The IDF does nothing wrong. The Israeli government does nothing wrong. And there's a reason you can say all this. There's a reason you can sit back and say all this. You don't let journalists in to do their jobs to verify what you're saying.
That's wrong.
So you can say what the hell you like, and we all just have to accept it. You see the problem?
Is that a conversation or you're just giving a speech?
No, it's a statement.
Yeah, let's go, Sincere. Sincere said a dozen, many, okay. Out of 200, how many? Crickets. Yeah, he can't answer it.
Let the journalists in to do their job. The longer you don't, the more I don't believe you.
135 journalists went into Gaza from 80 different press organizations.
Yeah,
so
they're
it's
all
not
attached
true
with the
that journalists
IDF,
were
right?
not
They're
allowed
embedded with the IDF. Yeah?
Obviously, they were embedded. You don't want them to go free and be
You're worried about their safety.
by bombardment. Okay. We are in charge of their safety.
Let me just end by asking you one more time. Can you think of any anti-Semitic thing that I've ever said?
Pierce on his top. Pierce don't like
I'm
this
saying
guy.
again.
No,
First
let's answer my question.
I recall my tweet.
Answer my question. If you want to pour, if you want to pour, as you did, if you want to pour hatred onto my head for being anti-Semitic, you've got to prove it.
It seems that you are very concerned from this tweet. I thought we were going to speak about Iran. I thought we were going to speak about
I'm sure you did.
general issues
I'd rather
than just
talk about you. I'd rather talk about you calling me anti-Semitic.
Yeah, so basically Pierce got a personal vendetta and he don't care about nothing. Pierce brought him on the show just so he can confront him about this tweet. Let's go, Pierce.
I said again, your choice.
Hey, Baller, he hit him with the overplay for the underplay. Let's go.
To bring a stage with your millions of viewers to Holocaust deniers and conspiracy theorists such as Dan Bilzerian, Candace Owens,
who I challenged for their views,
to give them the
as
stage
I challenge people on the Israeli side
when you bring
they
them,
say outrageous things.
you do not interrupt them. You treat them respectfully.
Oh, what a load of crap.
You treat them
never watch my
respectfully.
show, do you?
And
You don't think I've ever interrupted pro-Palestinian
like
guests?
Natasha Hausdorff, amazing Natasha Hausdorff. You are treating her as a bully. You're treating her as a bully.
Really?
Harassing her later on in parties. This is very
Am I
embarrassing.
bullying you then?
And
Am I bullying
by the
you
way,
now?
Your decision.
You think I
to block
harassed her at a
everyone who
party? Is that what you just
criticized
said? Is that what you just said?
You went and
You
said
think I harassed her at a
talk to me.
party?
So,
Wow.
I'm saying once again.
Wow. That's quite a
you are
claim.
blocking.
You were
You are
there, were you?
blocking.
Were you there for that? Did you watch it?
You said she wouldn't talk to you.
Did you see what happened?
You were mocking her on Twitter.
I didn't harass anybody.
You mocked her on Twitter.
I don't think that he's really just bullying dude where he is on his show. But Pierce didn't like that tweet that he put out. And basically you're seeing a confrontation. They tricked this guy onto the show by saying he was going to be talking about Israel and Iran with the situation going on. And then once he got there, Pierce gave him a dose of his medicine, basically of how he felt about that tweet.
everybody.
She didn't talk to you?
Yeah. And by the way, I've interrupted you as much as I've interrupted her. So am I bullying you, Minister?
Look, I don't care about bullying. I'm a warrior.
Am I bullying you?
Look.
Am I bullying you?
It's
Yes
very
or no?
hard to talk with you.
Am I bullying you?
You are.
I'm bullying
you. Are a bully.
Oh, you're being bullied?
At the moment.
Oh, you poor thing. I hope
it's
you're
very
okay.
hard to speak.
You know
it's
what?
very hard to speak.
I'll let you go.
Okay.
I'm so sorry for your hurt feelings.
He picked it up. He said it's very hard to speak. Yeah, Prince wasn't letting him say nothing. Prince didn't care about nothing else besides what he said. Gilly, I'm only okay. It was only my opinion. You good, Gilly? Yeah, man. Prince had one objective in this, and this was to confront that dude about that tweet.
You're okay. It's amazing how easily bullied you all are.
Excellent.
When you're asked difficult questions, you all play the victim card. You all start saying, I'm bullying you.
No, I'm not playing the victim.
Yeah, funny enough, you didn't do that when I went after people that wouldn't condemn Hamas. You all cheered me on, didn't you? That wasn't bullying. When I was interrupting them and going after them, that you thought was great interrogating journalism. But the moment I come after you guys and criticize you for indefensible actions you're now doing in Gaza, suddenly I'm a bully.
He said, let me know when I can speak. Hey, man, Minister, I don't even think you're going to get to speak. I think Pierce finna get you the hell up out of there.
You see how pathetic that sounds?
You finished?
Yeah, you?
Awkward.
It's very hard to speak.
Yeah, you know what makes me laugh? You inspire thousands of people.
Can I say something?
You inspire thousands of people on social media.
Can I say something?
To call me a Jew-hating anti-Semite. And you have the brass neck to say I'm bullying you. Honestly, grow a pair. Pathetic.
Have you listened to this interview?
Have I? I've conducted it.
Yeah, look, it's very hard to talk.
Not really. You just have to justify why you called me anti-Semitic. You failed to do so because I've never been anti-Semitic.
Look,
I do take it personally, and I don't like it when people like you just try
running an entire interview speaking about you and your self-esteem and your inability to take any, criticism. Any criticism.
Oh, wow. Says the guy, that branded my criticism.
And let's go back to my tweet. Pierce, let's go back to my tweet. During this tweet, I said that at the beginning of the war, you were relatively fair, but then you became the main stage worldwide of Holocaust deniers who are spreading conspiracy theories against the Jewish people and the state of Israel.
You just made that up.
I do watch.
I had one person,
and when you brought people who represent the state of Israel.
Just to be clear.
And when you brought people.
I'm sorry. You said something. I'm going to counter you.
To represent the state of Israel, you don't let them speak, just like you don't letting me speak.
Dan Bilzerian is the only guest who has even attempted to cast doubt over the Holocaust, and I chewed him up like I've been doing to you. So it's complete and utter nonsense, what you've just said. Complete nonsense. And I will continue to go after people who say outrageous things which are not true. Whether it's Bilzerian being a complete moron, or whether it's you inspiring people to view me as a Jew hater, because that is reprehensible. And just because I'm now more critical of your government, you should be looking at yourselves and wondering, why are people like me now more critical of you?
You can use this interview to have a serious conversation regarding Iran, regarding Gaza.
Yeah, we could do, but you know what?
We were speaking about you.
No,
all this interview is about you and your self-esteem and the fact that you were insulted.
Yeah.
Because of criticism.
When you call me anti-Semitic, I take it personally. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there.
But you can go back to my tweet. I didn't say you're anti-Semitic.
Yeah. Thank you. We all read what you wrote. It's fine. Thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Okay. Bye-bye. Good luck.
Got him right up out of there, man. You know what I'm saying? Pierce had a vendetta, you know, with old buddy. He would not let him speak. The whole ending of that was strictly to get his get back, and that's exactly what Pierce did. I seen y'all down there saying Pierce is childish. You know, this don't make no sense. But hey, Pierce said he said what he said, and he didn't like what old buddy from Israel had to say. Well, yeah, old buddy from Israel had to say about him in that tweet. And he took that time to get him on his show to confront him and not let him speak. He said goodbye. Well, anyway, y'all, he said bye-bye. Good luck. Yeah, real talk, man. Pierce was not playing no games with Buddy, man. But anyway, y'all, I took y'all down, let y'all know about what Trump announcing that ceasefire. You know, we most definitely talked about Soleimani and the history that Trump has with Iran, you know, and to where I asked y'all, do y'all think that this whole situation is personal, or was it about nukes? You know, we most definitely, shout out to Jay Stevens for that 10-piece. Thank you, big dog. And we most definitely determined that a lot of the chat felt like it was more personal than it was about nukes, guys. So I hope y'all enjoyed the show. Shout out to everybody that's been rocking all night. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to all my members. Shout out to the subscribers, the old ones as well as the new ones. Shout out to my moderators, man, for keeping the chat in line. Y'all know I got some of the best in the game, man. Y'all already know it's sidewalk gang or nothing, you know, and it's time for me to make my grand exit. It is 4:17 Central Standard Time. I most definitely got to get some sleep. I most definitely see y'all tomorrow. And with that being said, y'all already know how this go. Sidewalk gang, checking out. I'll catch y'all on the next one. And with that being said, I'm gone, y'all. Shout out, Sincere. I seen you rocking all night. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate all of y'all support. And I always remember, I'm absolutely nothing without y'all. I'm gone.